What's up, everybody? I always think this thing mutes me, but it doesn't. Lucky you, right? Hey, what's up, everybody? How are you going? I mean, how are you going? How are you going? How are you doing? Anyways, right? Oh, we're getting started on the right foot. Never. Oh my gosh. Hey, Trace. Hey, Aaron Soper. Yes, this is starting now. Starting now. And Donna, Chris. Hey, what's up, Chris? There is no enterprise. There is only individual opportunities in these health gains, right? It is, I think it is an enterprise, but it's not just an enterprise makes up, I would say, a group of people that have been existing in this system, in this church since Bishop Glenn Pace. I'm telling you, I don't know why. It just really resonates. Um, Anyway, I have been working on, voiceover for or, of Glenn Pace's, memo, and it sounds similar. I'm just like, these people it's just morphed. Our definitions have morphed. The way these things are handled publicly have morphed, in my opinion. It really resembles it. I don't know if this is it or not. Let me see. Their aunts and uncles. Nope. That's not it. Well, okay. Anyways, I must have it in my photo app. I was working on it earlier though, I think. See? Let me see if this is it. Kit. Whoop. Satanism. Witness 3 also gives description. Nope. Oh well. There it is. Not all the way edited, but just kind of listen. How are you doing, sweet Melissa? Hey, Lamisa. And did I say Trace on the case? I think I did. Hey again. And Jean, how are you doing? Hope all is well in Louisiana. Yeah, right? It's normal, I guess. It's normal for today. And um I thought Donna's there's KJ. Okay. I see a link she shared, but I can't push on it while I'm here. Hmm. Interesting. Now I want to see. Oh, my audio is skipping? Ruh-roh. No, no audio? Hmm. You have audio? Hmm. That's weird. It's not muted or anything. Miss M. Lou, do you have audio of me? Miss M. Lou, can you hear me? You do? Donna has audio. Skipping audio. Maybe get out and come back in. That's what I'm gonna have to do too. Imma jump out and come back in. My bad. Okay, so yep, Miss M has it. Okay, I have it. I'm sorry if I'm buffering. It doesn't show my little Wi-Fi signal. Usually when my Wi-Fi signal comes on, it starts to get all jacked up. So I've been noticing this in other live streams too. Have y'all gotten out and gotten back in? Just try it. That's the only thing we can do. I got out and came back in. Skipping. Maybe the wire at the bottom of the microphone. Better not. I'll have to get married to FedEx my damn other microphone if so. Problems, right? Problemos. Okay, yeah, so just kinda listen to this memo real quick, and that way I can pull up my Speechify app as well and the lawsuit. Crap. I hate buffering. It sucks. Let me know if y'all have any more problems. Finally, the 12-page document directed to the Strengthening Church Members Committee features 6 pages of LDS scripture references that support Bishop Pace's assertion that satanic cults are indeed present. In his memo, Bishop Pace stated that satanic abusers in Utah, quote, represent a cross-section of the Mormon culture, unquote. He mentioned that members of these cults could include young women and young men leaders, bishops, a patriarch, a stake president, temple workers, and even members of the tabernacle choir. He noted that such abuses have occurred within church meeting houses. Bishop Pace is among 27 community leaders serving on a ritual abuse subcommittee of the Governor's Commission for Women and Families. This committee also includes therapists, law enforcement officials, attorneys, religious leaders, former U.S. Attorney Brent Ward, an aide to Senator Orrin Hatch, an Assistant Attorney General, and First Lady Colleen Bangeter. They have been meeting since February of 1990. When asked about the memo, a church spokesperson stated, quote, the church prefers not to discuss internal communications intended to address this sensitive and challenging issue, unquote. In September, the Deseret News published a 4-part series addressing the topic of ritualistic use of children, featuring insights from therapists, law enforcement officials, and social scientists who believe that an organized network of Satanists engages in heinous rituals to perpetuate crimes such as child sex, cannibalism, and human sacrifice. The Glenn Pace memo on ritualistic abuse in Utah. This was a confidential memo written in July of 1990 by Bishop Glenn L. Pace, the second counselor in the presiding bishopric on ritualistic child abuse in Utah and within the church. The memo summarizes over 50 interviews Bishop Pace had with people who said that they had been abused. Here is the full memo that he sent after his research. It was sadly dismissed by then Governor Mike Leavitt, the brother of David Leavitt, who was named in the Hamblin case. Memo Bishop Glenn L. Pace to LDS Church Members Committee. Pursuant to the committee's request, I am writing this memorandum to pass along what I have learned about ritualistic child abuse. Hopefully, it will be of some value to you as you continue to monitor the problem. You have already received the LDS Social Services Report on Satanism, dated May 24, 1989, a report from Brent Ward, and a memorandum from myself, dated October 20th, 1989, in response to Brother Ward's report. Therefore, I will limit this writing to information not contained in those papers. Bishop Glenn Pace writes, I have met with 60 victims. That number could be twice or 3 times as many if I did not discipline myself to only doing 1 meeting per week. I have not wanted my involvement with this issue to become a handicap in fulfilling my assigned responsibilities. On the other hand, I felt someone needed to pay the price to obtain an intellectual and as to the seriousness of this problem within the church. Of the 60 victims with whom I have met, 53 are female and 7 are male. 8 are children. The abuse occurred in the following places: Utah, 37, Idaho, 3, California, 4, Mexico, 2, and other places, 14. 53 victims are currently living in the state of Utah. All 60 individuals are members of the 45 victims alleged and or participating in human sacrifice. The majority are abused by relatives, often their parents. All have developed psychological problems, and most have been diagnosed as having multiple personality disorder. Ritualistic child abuse is the most hideous of all child abuse. The basic objective is premeditated to systematically and methodically torture and terrorize children until they are forced to dissociate. The torture is not a consequence of the loss of temper, but the execution of well-planned, well-thought-out rituals often performed by close relatives. The only escape for the children is to dissociate. They will develop a new personality to enable them to endure various forms of abuse. When the episode is over, the core personality is again in control and the individual is not conscious of what happened. Dissociation also serves the purpose of the occult because the children have no day to day memory of the atrocities. They go through adolescence and early adulthood with no active memory of what is taking place. Oftentimes, they continue in rituals through their teens and early 20s, unaware of their involvement. And it has not been until later that they begin to remember. One individual has memories of participating in rituals while serving as a full-time missionary. The victims lead relatively normal lives, but the memories are locked up in a compartment in their minds and surface in various ways. They don't know how to cope with the emotions because they can't find the source. As they become adults and move into another environment, something triggers the memories and, consequently, flashbacks and or nightmares occur. One day, they will have been living a normal life, and the next, they will be in a mental hospital in a fetal position. The memories of their early childhood are recalled in so much detail that they once again feel the pain that caused them the dissociation in the first place. There are two reasons why adults can remember with such detail events that happened in their past. First, the terror they experienced was so stark that it was indelibly placed in their mind. Second, the memory was compartmentalized in a certain portion of the mind and was not subjected to the dilution of experiences of ensuing years. When it is tapped, it is as fresh as if it had happened yesterday. The memories seem to come in layers. For example, the first memory might be of incest. Then they remember robes and candles. Next, they realize that their father or mother or both were present when they were being abused. Another layer will be the memory of seeing other people hurt and even killed. Then they remember having seen babies killed. Another layer is realizing that they participated in the sacrifices. One of the most painful memories may be that they even sacrificed their own baby. With each layer of memory comes another set of problems with which they must deal. Some have said that the witnesses to this type of treatment cannot be trusted because of the victim's unstable condition, and because practically all of them have some kind of dissociative disorder. In fact, the stories are so bizarre as to raise serious credibility questions. The irony is that one of the objectives of the occult is to create multiple personalities within the children in order to keep the secrets. That's Hamblin, you know. That's what he does. Allegedly. That's what he's done. Sorry, it's not focusing. Right? No, this is a Glishop. Glishop. What is wrong? I'm combining words. Bishop Glenn L. Pace. He was tasked back in 1989 to um, compile a report on the plague at the time of ritualistic child abuse. Okay, and so he compiled it, and he's one of them. He was a higher up bishop in the church, like he was in the leadership area, you know. And so he compiled the report. He conducted up to around 60 interviews with 60 different victims of this, you know, these ritualistic child SA. They were talking about experiencing, I mean, I'm reading it right here. They were talking about experiencing ritual child sacrifice, just regular sacrifice, sometimes even, and then they would start to, their memories start to come about around in their 20s or so, and they come back in layers. And so the first memory might be of attending one of these things, or like the robes, and or the yeah, attending one of these things. And then the second layer will be like people in robes and candles. The third layer, you might realize that your parents were there and participating in said sacrifice. And then so on and so forth. I mean, it goes up and up and up, right? And I mean, that's got to be horrific. And it's because of the torture and the child abuse that's inflicted, that they're put in, and compromised as little kids, as little baby kids, I mean, like, crap. Yeah, I mean, so whenever they endure such torture, I mean, my camera's blurring out, but that's normal. Whenever they thank you, KJ. Thank you, lady and man. Mr. Wayne, too. Thank y'all. It will. It will. It does. My camera just came back into focus, then it went back out. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Woo! Oh, man. I'm gonna come right back to it. But they've endured so much abuse, or when let's say a child is put into this kind of predicament, which is just it's vile to even think about it, but it does happen, okay? So, let's get over that. When they're put in these positions, when they're essayed or whatever, they dissociate. And so then your brain begins to compartmentalize these memories, these experiences. And so because the child it says it right here. Hold on. Seem to come and later feel the pain that caused them the source. As they become adults and move into another environment, something triggers the memories and consequently flashbacks and or nightmares occur. One day they will have been living a normal life and the next they will be in a mental hospital in a fetal position. The memories of their early childhood are recalled in so much detail that they once again feel the pain that caused them the dissociation in the first place. There are two reasons why adults can remember with such detail events that happened in their past. First, the terror they experienced was so stark that it was indelibly placed in their mind. Second, the memory was compartmentalized in a certain portion of the mind and was not subjected to the dilution of experiences of ensuing years. When it is tapped, it is as fresh as if it had happened yesterday. The memories seem to come in layers. For example, the first memory might be of incest. Then they remember robes and candles. Next, they realize that their father or mother or both were present when they were being abused. Another layer will be the memory of seeing other people hurt and even killed. Then they remember having seen babies killed. Another layer is realizing that they participated in the sacrifices. One of the most painful memories may be that they even sacrificed their own baby. With each layer of memory comes another set of problems with which they must deal. Some have said that the witnesses to this type of treatment cannot be trusted because of the victim's unstable condition, and because practically all of them have some kind of dissociative disorder. In fact, the stories are so bizarre as to raise serious credibility questions. The irony is that one of the objectives of the occult is to create multiple personalities within the children in order to keep the secrets. They live in society without society having any idea that something is wrong, since the children and teenagers don't even realize there's another life occurring in darkness and in secret. However, when 60 witnesses testify to the same type of torture and murder, it becomes impossible for me, personally, not to believe them. Just before or shortly after their baptism into the church, children are baptized by blood into the satanic order, which is meant to cancel out their baptism into the church. They will be asked if they understand or have they ever felt the Holy Ghost. When they reply that they have, they will be reminded of the horrible things that they have participated in and will be told that they have become a son or daughter of perdition and therefore have no chance of being saved or loved by our Father in heaven or Jesus. All of this indoctrination takes place with whichever personality has emerged to endure the physical, mental, and spiritual pain. Consequently, there develops within each of these individuals the makings of what I call a civil war. As the memories begin to surface, there are personalities who feel they have given themselves to Satan and that there is no hope for forgiveness. The core person is an active member of the church, often with a temple recommend. As integration takes place, the civil war begins. Sometimes in an interview, personalities of the dark side have come out. They are petrified or perhaps full of hate for me and what I represent. Eventually, those personalities need to be dealt with spiritually and psychologically. I mention multiple personalities because the spiritual healing, which must take place in the lives of these victims, cannot happen. Oh, you heard it here first. Oh, thank you, editing. Anyways, so it's about these layers. I really do. I can picture this happening to JJ. I can picture this happening to Tylee. I believe this is what was happening to Ruby Frankie's kids. I believe that this was that was what was gonna happen to Melanie Pulowski's. Okay? So, I mean, what it is, I mean, there was, documented, abuse by Ruby, right? To of holding her son underwater with bags on their heads and stuff like that. I believe that's exactly what happened to JJ. I do. I believe that the whole point is just to torture them so much because it increases the adrenal glands. Whether it's true or not, I'm not here. I wasn't there. I'm not here to like I don't know. But it's definitely, something that's out there, this theory. It seems to be something that people like Tim Ballard gloat about, and, it's not about service, it's about Tim Ballard talks about this being, that you get all these good feeling endorphins and oxytocin and serotonin, and you get all that from service, and I'm just like, "Why are you talking about this?" Yeah, yeah, 0, were you being triggered? I'm sorry, it is triggering, and I mean, it's hard to talk about, it's hard to listen to, but I mean, it's what I believe is the reality of the situation. I believe that Glenn Pace back in 1989 was tasked by his leadership in the church, okay, to conduct these interviews with these so-called, right, so-called SRA victims who were claiming to be victims. And so out of 60 people, and he said that he could have done more had there been um, more time, or if he didn't pace himself to just having one interview per week. That 60 interviews, right? So I mean, that's a lot of interviews, and he could have had and gone over even more. So he compiled all this. Was meant just for the leadership to know. It was a leak that came from the church. And thank God, because do you think that we would know about it? Zero transparency. Okay. There is zero transparency with these peeps. And so I'm grateful that Glenn L. Pace, conducted the interviews and the report. And then I'm glad it got leaked because after Glenn Pace turned in the report, he was sent off on a overseas mission. So that's just lovely, right? That tracks. So, yeah, and people do need to be warned. If not for anything else, just be aware of it. There's nothing wrong with that. Being aware of it, I want to know how to be able to protect myself, my family, my kids especially, because they are innocent. That's what they go for, is to destroy innocence, and they feed off of it. They really do. Glenn Pace, sure, yeah, and Donnell was in the church, right? And Glenn Pace sure seemed to have been silenced after the report. It was weird. Zero transparency is right. And that's sad, especially when it has to do with kids. And these people, I believe that it's these people that are still carrying on. It's never gone away because the LDS thing to do is to sweep it under the rug and just forgive and forget. Straight up. Those are words that came from I want to say Neil Maxwell. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's either him or Thomas Monson. I don't remember, but either way, they were in the hierarchy of the church. Just forgive and forget. Okay. Bippity boppity. Just move on. And then you have Curtin McConkie, who is, according to some reports that we've seen from Vice News, from the actual attorney Tim Kosnoff, who was part of, he's an attorney involved in the Boy Scouts of America abuse scandal. Okay, so there's all these reports coming into these different places, but not from the church. It's not coming from the church. There's nothing to see here. And that tracks with what I see in the Cox family from Lori. I see that from the Daybell family. I see that from many different places. Do you see any of Ruby Frankie's family coming out, or Jodi Hildebrandt, or Chad Daybell, or um, Lori? I mean, close, or that are being real, besides Megan. Okay, besides Megan Connor. Okay, so to me, it's like, anyways, I don't know. That's for another day. It's crazy, but to me it tracks, and it is. Oops, sorry, I hit the things in my way, right? But it's disgusting, right? So, your knowledge of the church always seems. And I can't talk. This is not good. Thank you. That means a lot. I know I don't say it the way they might want me to, but hey, I'm not here to proselytize. I'm just here to figure it out. But thank you. That means a lot. And yeah, the fact that he was silent speaks bounds, right? It speaks volumes. Tim Ballard's book proposal sounds like Pace memo victim. Hmm. What? What book proposal? I need to know about a book proposal from Tim Ballard. By Tim or whatever. Yeah. Interesting. I was watching Paul reporting live from my sofa. And so he got through to about page 28, I think. And he didn't veer off near as much as I do. So I'm about to be off screen, or reading the document so we can barrel through this. It's already been 26 damn minutes. Oh my god. Time flies. Yeah. Thank you. We love you too. We do. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. And then they can speak for themselves, but it means a lot. It really does. Huh. A good introduction to how they indoctrinate the children is called Ghost Girl by Tori Hayden. Story about a teacher coming across a little girl experiencing SRA. I read it in high school. It's so good. Well, I put a star by it so I can come back to that later and grab that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. You know? Yeah, you're the book reader. Yeah. Trace loves to read books. I do too. I just bounce around in them because of the subject matter. I'm always having to, "Oh, we gotta talk about Lori Court today," so people don't wanna hear what I have to say about all this other stuff most of the time, you know? I've read some of hers. I've read some of hers. Martha Beck wrote a memoir in which she says her father, a very famous, scholar, Hugh Nibley, did ritualistic essay on her. It's just, but it don't exist, right? It does exist. This is proof of it, y'all. People want receipts. It's like they want video of this, and it doesn't exist. Or if it does, it's kept down. I don't know. Call that snuff films. I don't know. I'm not here to. I believe this. I believe the victims. I do. There's so many accounts of it. You can't like just dismiss it. I can't. And then the proof is Tylee and JJ being found dead in Chad's backyard, and it's disgusting. Tim Ballard's Fed case. Oh, he is bad, yeah. And then from Nuance Ho, or I'm sorry, Kara Burrell and Ryan Fisher, they had came up with a report, and so Ryan he used to like platform Tim. He used to platform Tim, and he's even attended some of the what do you call them? Book of Mormon evidence conferences, Farm Foundation events. And anyway, so I'm glad he's not involved in that anymore, but uh, thank God. Well, anyways, Ryan had talked about a couple episodes ago on Cara Burrell's channel that there were 31 alleged victims accusing Tim Ballard, not just freaking 6 or 7 or 8. 31, okay? It's like Baskin damn Robbins. 31 flavors, right? That's gross. And I knew it. And you knew it. We knew it. And I'm just like, where's the rest? Where's everybody at? And some have been paid off. And I've heard that from Janet Russin, like you just I don't know. I go and listen to these different things, whether from the source's mouth themselves and or, accusations. I try to bring it all here and just disseminate it, just kind of go through it with you guys. And it is what it is. What I'm stating here is not verbatim truth, but I do believe there is truth to a lot of things that we hear, and that's when it is just a conspiracy theory, hence the word theory. Then it's a conspiracy damn truth, and it's not a conspiracy anymore. It's a enterprise network. The videos are probably they on the burner phones that Jim Caviezel had to watch with Janet Russell and Tim Ballard. What, to make the movie? I had to watch CP just to portray Tim Ballard. Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, you did not. That's nasty. But it's a way that they gloat and show off and say it in plain sight. We're just not picking it up for the most part. They love to talk about it and brag about it, but we're just not. We're just like, well, okay. But they really are. But thank you again, KJ. I appreciate you and Mr. Wayne really, really much. I do. I've wondered why, if there's so many rich Mormons because of payoffs. I know, huh? I mean, I think the church was behind Ruby Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt. I mean, there's the trad wife or whatever. I don't know. I don't really get to keep up with everything all the time now. And I can't believe I still haven't seen Secret Lives of Mormon Wives or whatever. I'm not paying for Hulu again, y'all. I'm not. I got my, all these damn subscriptions, so I try to limit. So what I'm gonna do is, of course, start reading it, right? We'll never freaking get anywhere if I don't. And I don't want it to get larger. Hold on. And then when I need a break, I have my Speechify app right here. And then it's my voice,
Victoria R. Lumen, Daniel J. Nelson, Par Brown Gee, and Plaintiff Michael Robert Thielemann.
That's not the right voice. Hold on. I'm not using Mr. Beast. He's I gotta figure out which one. Might be this one. Maybe.
Hi, my files this complaint against defendant.
No. Good Lord. Right. Let's see.
Hi, my name is defendants Jodi Hildebrandt, Ruby Franke.
I don't have a good voice, y'all. Just don't.
Hi, Connections Classroom, LLC, and McCall Washburn, and for his claims, alleges as follows. Introduction 1. In August 2023, the world was shocked to learn that Ruby Franke, a parenting social media influencer, and her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt, a former therapist, had been torturing two of Franke's small children at Hildebrandt's residence outside of St. George, Utah. Both women pleaded guilty to 4 counts of felony aggravated child abuse after Franke's 12-year-old emaciated son escaped and asked a neighbor for help. As serious and troubling as these facts are, they are part of a larger scheme spanning nearly 2 decades whereby Franke Hildebrandt and others, known and unknown, have been engaging in a widespread racketeering enterprise in pursuit of power and profit through the advertisement, sale, and provision of fraudulent services and products designed to prey on vulnerable individuals and encourage victims to perpetuate illegal acts onto others. Plaintiff Michael Thielemann brings this action for damages and injunctive relief as one of the victims of this racketeering scheme. 2. Hildebrandt and several other individuals, known and unknown, including Franke, Pam Botcher, and Savage, comprise an organized criminal enterprise within the meaning of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1961, that is, a group of individuals associated, in fact, that was engaged in, and the activities of which affected, interstate and foreign commerce. 3. Hildebrandt is the founder of several entities, Connections Mental Fitness Trainers, LLC, and the Connections Foundation. Connections, and potentially Connections. Mental Fitness Trainers, LLC, and the Connections Foundation form the business conduit of the enterprise. In leading Connections and her other various entities, Hildebrandt relied on several individuals, including Franke, to recruit other members to Connections and the enterprise and carry out her directives. Through Connections and the enterprise, defendants
I just feel like it is because, okay, Tim Ballard, his big thing is about principles. Okay, so and then okay, then we have Jodi Hildebrandt. She's all about these weird, whacked out principles. Okay, and then Julie Rowe also about principles. It seems like they're like given these missions or something. This is just what it look like. It just kind of feels like they're given these missions, and they're like, okay, you have to structure a business or something around these whatever principles you pick, and then and then they go and write books, publish books, and or become guru wannabes, hurtful, harmful gurus like like all of them, basically. But like Julie Rowe, and I mean, there's even Till Swan, if you think about that, just harmful behaviors. It's like they're also like it would have to put Julie Rowe, Chad Daybell, Lori, um, Tim, Jody, Ruby, like they would have had to have been in the same group, um, as David Hamblin, David Levitt. I believe that would include David Warwick, Melanie Gibb, Christina and Serena, Audrey Baratero. I mean, and it just rears its ugly head in the headlines. And but I think they belong to this LDS Church of Satan. I really do. I believe that is exactly who Glenn Pace was, writing about and compiling a report about and conducting interviews on. So at one point, it would have had to have made all those people that I just named, it would have had to have made them victims of this same abuse. And then they inflict it onto their victims. Pam Bochner, big time. Oh my God. I don't like, there's just something about that woman. I don't like it. It makes my stomach turn. Why? I don't know. I mean, I saw what you saw on the body cam videos and how, the two older Frankie daughters were there cleaning her house when some people were coming in from overseas to stay. What for? What for? Is this a child prostitution ring? I'm just asking. I'm just asking because the only thing that shocks me is that we haven't heard of any SA in these. Well, in the Hamlin case, it's raging everywhere, but in Lori, Chad, and Ruby and Jody, I haven't heard anything like that, and we have in Tim's. Julie's, she was macking on some of the men and saying that they were married before in past lives. You just can't be using the same lines and be different. Okay, I'm sorry. There's too many damn similarities, it's unreal. I've already convinced myself, you need to like not you need to convince me that I'm wrong. That, like, and I'll listen, because I don't want to be right, but it tracks, it lines up. Anyways,
Purport to offer valuable marital, self-improvement, and
I'll let
group
her get
session counseling, classes,
I'll let this go a little bit and then I'll jump in. Okay. Just thanks for understanding. It's a lot to read.
workshops, and digital and written materials in exchange for lucrative fees. 4. But these counseling services, classes, workshops, lessons, and digital and written materials are fraudulent. Through the enterprise, Hildebrandt and other members of the enterprise,
Mm.
including defendants, prey on individuals in vulnerable positions who are seeking legitimate mental health services and indoctrinate members into the enterprise, instructing her associates to perpetuate child abuse, child torture, and psychological abuse on any individual in their lives not deemed to be in what Hildebrandt has coined truth, i.e., aligning with Hildebrandt's will. 5. Under the guise of providing help to those in need, Connections fraudulent services are intended to bring individuals under the enterprise's financial and psychological control, entice victims to spend money on fraudulently advertised services which perpetuate and promote child abuse and other illegal acts, encourage psychological abuse, and ultimately break families, all while financially enriching the defendants and further perpetuating the enterprise. Hildebrandt teaches her associates that when they are in the truth, They should perpetuate horrific acts on anyone in distortion. In reality, Hildebrandt indoctrinates her victims with the false mentality that anyone who disagrees with the truth is in distortion and is the enemy.
Thank you.
Hildebrandt teaches her associates and enterprise members to inflict pain, often taking the form of physical abuse and torture,
Chad.
on individuals in distortion to bring them into truth. 7. After representing that Connections offers run of the mill counseling and self help services to entice victims already in a mentally vulnerable position, the enterprise then incrementally introduces Hildebrandt's methodology through a series of workshops and
Healing,
counseling sessions conducted through Connections, familiarizing enterprise victims with Hildebrandt's identity as a thought leader to gain trust, and then eventually demanding that victims accept that only Hildebrandt herself can help them achieve betterment of their lives
Good
through
one, Trace.
inflicting pain, punishment, and even physical torture onto others. 8. The enterprise demands that its victims accept Hildebrandt's authority as absolute. If enterprise victims who sought out Connections seeking routine counseling refused to submit to Hildebrandt's control, the enterprise turns and punishes them as someone in distortion. 9. As evidenced by the despicable and widely publicized torture of Frankie's children, Hildebrandt, Frankie, and other members of the enterprise are encouraged to punish those in distortion by any means necessary,
Work the
and as
dark.
demonstrated by the tragic and criminal treatment of Frankie's children. The enterprise encourages its members to punish individuals to the brink of death, if necessary, to remediate someone from distortion into truth.
That's
10.
not
The horrific nature of the enterprise was meticulously described by Frankie at her criminal aggravated child abuse sentencing hearing. Frankie, who initially sought out Hildebrandt merely for counseling services, revealed that Hildebrandt's teachings then led Frankie into a
no.
dark delusion, a distorted version of
And that is nothing but that is just like Janice saying, "It's that damn Chad Daybell." Summer says the same thing. It's not Lori. They're not holding Lori accountable, even though this is out of Ruby's own words, right? She's saying in her journal, we heard or we read, um, hold on, let me find it. Frankie, who initially sought out Hildebrandt, why did she seek her out? That's what I want people to ask. Why was Frankie seeking this person out, Jodi Hildebrandt? Why are parents seeking uh oh my god, their names? There's too many of them to list right now, so I'm jumbled. Why were parents seeking out Hamblin to train their kids? And he would, allegedly. From reports, it says. That is very specific to me. That's just like, hey, you don't go when I've looked for counseling before, I've never been like, "Hey, how to train a child, you know how?" It's never been like that's not what I seek out counseling for. And then to think that the church is recommending these assholes, okay? That's a whole nother layer of this. That's just disgusting. And they can't do the, "Oh, I didn't know." Bullshit. You have discernment, right? Allegedly. Anyways, it's some bullcrap, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I mean, I've given them the benefit of the doubt. All these people in that church, I've given them the benefit of the doubt one too many times, and they never fail to surprise me in how low they will go, and it's gross. And I mean, so you have a whole system of this good old boys network, in my opinion, enabling this, pushing this, in my opinion. Anyways, that's if you wanna know what I think.
Frankie, who initially sought out Hildebrandt merely for counseling services, revealed that Hildebrandt's teachings then led Frankie into a dark delusion, a distorted version of reality.
No.
Hildebrandt taught Frankie to isolate anyone who challenged, and to believe that this world an evil place filled with cops who control, hospitals who injure, government agencies that brainwash, and church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abuse. Per Frankie, Hildebrandt's grooming of her associates results in paranoia, criminal activity, brainwashing, and offering unconditional contempt to family who try to help. In short, tragedy. Hildebrandt's methodology leads children into extreme danger, knowingly leads children to darkness, believe dark was light and light was wrong, and takes from children all that soft and
That's an interesting statement right there too from Ruby. Believing dark was light. We know that, okay? And light was wrong. Just saying. That's that projection thing. I mean, that gives me freaking chills. 'Cause, again, I don't believe this is just the same thought, belief system, for these people right here. I believe this is a bigger network, and I believe this extends to Chad and Lori and friends and co-conspirators.
Safe and good. 11.
Nuts.
Hildebrandt's methodology has led to the commission of countless crimes and torts by Hildebrandt and Enterprise members, all of which did not come to light until the arrests and subsequent sentencing of Hildebrandt and Franke in August 2023 and February 2024, respectively. Once Franke and Hildebrandt's criminal activity was exposed, thousands of individuals reported that the Enterprise destroyed their lives and their families. Many even contemplated suicide at the hands of the Enterprise. 12. Plaintiff is one such individual severely harmed by the Enterprise. Plaintiff and Savage were formerly married. During their marriage, Savage sought Hildebrandt for routine counseling. Shortly thereafter, Savage eagerly accepted Hildebrandt as her guide and joined the Enterprise. Savage and Hildebrandt immediately identified Plaintiff as an individual in distortion upon whom they needed to inflict severe psychological abuse to be brought into truth. 13. Savage masterfully implemented the Enterprise's dark teachings to physically abuse and endanger the minor child of Savage and Plaintiff and destroy Plaintiff's life. Savage's current husband, Jay Washburn, now also implements the Enterprise's destructive practices to harm Plaintiff.
And then the other thing is just like what's being read right now is Savage and Hildebrandt immediately identified Plaintiff as an individual in distortion, just as Chad and Lori, Chad, they automatically immediately introduced this idea of zombie and dark. And I mean, upon whom they needed to inflict severe psychological abuse to be brought into truth. So in order to rectify and bring Lori and Tylee and JJ into truth was to liberate them. Please, please always remember liberate. This is what I believe because I've heard it just from this whole group and my research into it. Liberate is what they are wanting to do, and what they're doing in their minds is to liberate these victims. Lori said that Tylee was free. Tylee was free now, right? Liberate, to loose. It means to loosen too, which Hiplos does as well, to loosen. Okay. Anyways, just these words. And I mean, you got to think also that Sean Reyes is nonprofit that looks a lot like it was in the laundering area, in my opinion. It's called Liberate All, Values All. Just saying. Just check them out. They want to liberate everything, their victims. And this is, anyways, it's just a really jacked up way of their thinking. And so it says Savage masterfully implemented the Enterprise's dark teachings to physically abuse and endanger the minor child of Savage, of her own child, and Plaintiff, and destroy Plaintiff's life. So pretend this is Charles, Plaintiff, and destroy Plaintiff's life. Lori destroyed Charles's life. Chad destroyed Tammy's life. It's goes on and on and on, y'all. Ew.
14. Even after Hildebrandt's and Franke's arrests and convictions, Savage remains a devoted associate of Hildebrandt and the Enterprise. Savage has staunchly refused to stop implementing Hildebrandt's warp.
And even if they were to arrest these people and convict them, it's not going to remedy the problem. It's going to get some dangerous people off the streets, yes, and some that have done some really egregious and crimes against humanity, period. But there are more, and you got to find source. Source is not these little minions, these little peons, These are just the fronts. That's the scary part. These are just the front operations, basically.
Teachings to discipline and abuse Savage and Plaintiff's daughter. Immediately after the arrests and subsequent convictions of Hildebrandt and Franke, and after the horrific nature of Hildebrandt's methodology came to light, Plaintiff pleaded multiple times with Savage to discontinue Savage's implementation of Hildebrandt's methodology with Savage and Plaintiff's minor child. Savage refused. Savage continues to engage in criminal and tortious behavior against her minor daughter and plaintiff, demonstrating through her words and actions that she willfully does so under the dark delusion, falsehoods, and dangerous and false methodologies promulgated by Hildebrandt. 15. As part of Savage's implementation of the enterprise, she attempted to destroy plaintiff's life in domestic proceedings by disparaging him and advocating for positions she knew violated Utah law. Plaintiff
they do.
prevailed on appeal, reversing the trial court's custody, attorney's fees, and child support awards. See Tilleman v. Tilleman, 2024 UT App 54,
I'll look that up.
549p, 65. 16. This suit addresses the racketeering and personal injuries plaintiff has suffered as a direct result of Savage, Hildebrandt, and other members of the enterprise's violations of federal racketeering and Utah law. 17.
Rico.
The enterprise continues to function even while Hildebrandt and Franke are incarcerated. Plaintiff brings this suit for declaratory and injunctive relief to enjoin the enterprise from causing harm, as well as for monetary damages caused by defendants through the enterprise. Parties.
All right.
18. Plaintiff Michael Tilleman.
Okay, I'll read this little part. Okay. Plaintiff Michael Tilleman is an individual domiciled in Utah. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt is an individual domiciled in Utah and currently incarcerated in the Utah State Correctional Facility. I didn't know they were incarcerated in the same facility. Interesting. And then it says, upon information and belief, Franke is an individual domiciled in Utah and currently incarcerated in the Utah State Correctional Facility. Upon information and belief, Connections Classroom LLC is a Utah limited liability company created by Hildebrandt to further the enterprise's fraudulent scheme. Okay. Its last address of record is 1400 Chapel Street, P.O. Box 782, Santa Clara, Utah 84765. Upon information and belief, defendant, I don't know. I don't feel like Michael is her name, but anyways, M. Washburn, also known as M. Savage, is domiciled in Cedar Hills, Utah. Upon information and belief, Does 1 through 10 are other individuals that have committed acts or omissions that are the subject of this complaint, including other members of the enterprise. Plaintiff may seek to amend this complaint to identify Does 1 through 10 as soon as their identities are known. Call me, I'll tell you. I got you, boo.
Jurisdiction and venue. 24. This court has subject matter jurisdiction over plaintiff's
I couldn't help but laugh. Subject matter jurisdiction. Oh, Daryl Brooks.
RICO claim under 18 U.S.C. 1964 and 28 U.S.C. 1331. 25. This
Yes.
court has supplemental jurisdiction over plaintiff's state law claims under 28 U.S.C. 1367 because the claims arise out of a common nucleus of operative facts as plaintiff's RICO claim. 26. Venue is proper in this district under 28 U.S.C. 1391 because all defendants reside in this district and a substantial number of events giving rise to this action occurred in this district. Venue is also proper in this district under 18 U.S.C. 1965 because all the defendants reside, are found, have agents, and transact affairs in this district. Factual allegations. A. Defendants offer fraudulent services purporting to help individuals and families which utilize abuse to amass a fortune. 27. The enterprise created a scheme to defraud individuals of their money and property, which extensively utilized interstate wires to further that scheme. 28. The enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the enterprise. 29. The principal purpose of the enterprise was to obtain financial gain and promulgate Hildebrandt's psychological thought paradigm by promoting Hildebrandt and by recruiting new members into connections for the financial benefit of the enterprise. By promoting Hildebrandt and recruiting others into connections, the members of the enterprise expected to receive financial opportunities through connections, increase power and status within the enterprise, and control over victims and or their families through implementation of Hildebrandt's methodology to ultimately keep victims within the enterprise for its financial gain. 30. The enterprise operated within the Southern District of Utah and elsewhere, including Idaho and Arizona. 31. Among the means and methods by which Hildebrandt, Franke, Savage, and others participated in the conduct of the affairs of the enterprise were the following.
It does.
A. Promoting, enhancing, and protecting the enterprise by committing, attempting, and conspiring to commit crimes, including but not limited to wire
Money.
fraud, monetary transactions involving racketeering proceeds, forced labor, and potential money laundering.
Oh,
B.
yeah.
Demanding absolute commitment to Hildebrandt, including by promulgating Hildebrandt's methodology of abuse and control,
Oh,
and promoting and accepting Hildebrandt's status as an unquestionable authority within connections, and the enterprise. C. Promoting and implementing Hildebrandt's methodology of perpetuating aggravated child abuse and child torture on minor victims of the enterprise. D. Encouraging members and others to purchase expensive services and products from connections as a means of exerting control over them and to obtain financial benefits for the members of the enterprise. 32.
Wow. Oh, you want me to
Defendants
rewind it?
entice victims to join the enterprise by falsely representing that Hildebrandt's
We'll go
teachings,
here.
A. Promoting, enhancing, and protecting the
No, I gotta change the voice. This is
enterprise
too
by
robotic.
committing, attempting, and conspiring to commit crimes, including but not limited to
Sorry.
wire fraud, monetary transactions involving racketeering proceeds, forced labor, and potential money laundering. B. Demanding absolute commitment to Hildebrandt, including by promulgating Hildebrandt's methodology of abuse and control and promoting and accepting Hildebrandt's status as an unquestionable authority within connections, and the enterprise. C. Promoting and implementing Hildebrandt's methodology of perpetuating aggravated child abuse and child torture on minor victims of the enterprise. D. Encouraging members and others to purchase expensive services and products from connections as a means of exerting control over them and to obtain financial benefits for the members of the
Mm.
enterprise. 32. Defendants entice victims to join the enterprise by falsely representing that Hildebrandt's teachings via connections will bring peace in users' lives, joy in their relationships, and otherwise improve themselves as individuals. 33.
Thank
Not
you.
only does Connections purport to provide counseling and other self-help services, but it also advertises that Hildebrandt can solve any undesirable behavior.
It's
In
me as a
fact,
robot.
the enterprise represents that Connections is the only way to resolve said behaviors. For years, Hildebrandt represented the following on the now defunct Connections website. My style is what is necessary to fully change and champion any addictive or self-destructive behavior, whether it be ravenous addictions, feelings of worthlessness or inadequacy, conflicts in relationships, intimacy problems, communication breakdowns, and frankly, any block that prevents having and creating peace and joy. 34. However, rather than provide legitimate counseling and self-help services, Connections uses pretextual front companies which actively mislead potential
Front.
clients to believe and understand that Connections in Hildebrandt provide
No, I'll be
actual
all.
services. Hildebrandt also emphasized her background as a licensed therapist
I
in
loved it.
advertising Connections in order to build trust with potential Connections customers and members. 35. Hildebrandt categorized her personal services through Connections as life coaching to evade the legal, ethical, and professional
nasty.
responsibilities imposed on therapists.
She
This
knew she was
intentionally misleading advertising is another method by which the enterprise induced people to pay for the fraudulent services offered through Connections. 36. In addition to Hildebrandt's fraudulent life coaching counseling services, Connections also provides a number of instructional courses, workshops, retreats, and digital and written materials for purchase by customers and members of Connections. 37. The enterprise's fraudulent scheme also involved a ranking and advancement system within a
ranking.
multi-level marketing structure, whereby
Oh my God. The enterprise's fraudulent scheme also involved a ranking and advancement system within a multi-level marketing structure, whereby individuals work through the cells of structure of the enterprise to achieve the rank of mental fitness trainer. If you apply this model or whatever to Chad and Lori, then you have Melanie, David, Melanie, Ian, Alex, and Zalema, and so on and so forth. You have those people who are doing that spiritually. So, like, I'm trying to think, just they were just all these famous people in past lives, all these people that are well known, never just someone who scrapes poo off the bottom of somebody's shoe. You know what I mean? Something like that. I don't know. I couldn't come up with anything better. But I mean, still, it seems like maybe that was the advancement. I mean, think about it in the light of, no pun intended, but how they were saying that Brandon Boudreaux in the Lori and Chad case was, that of, Gadiant robber, and that he was one of Hitler's people, okay? So that being bad. Brandon, bad. Hitler, bad, right? And so, I think that's interesting. I just thought of that, all that. Maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm trying I don't wanna make anything for I don't wanna force anything, but I don't know. I gotta think more on that.
Individuals work through the sales structure of the enterprise to achieve the rank of mental fitness trainer. 38. The enterprise's primary purposes, now fully revealed in Hildebrandt and Frankie's criminal child abuse proceedings, are to control individuals, punish those who refuse the enterprise,
Good.
promote and perpetuate child abuse and child torture, inflict pain and
Yay.
abuse on distorted individuals, and destroy
Or dark.
individuals and families, all to fraudulently derive millions of dollars globally while doing so.
Wow.
39. Hildebrandt's and the enterprise's methodology establish Hildebrandt as the source of truth. That
Too
methodology
much.
rests on one central imperative,
That
that
woman's
to
a lie.
bring those around them into truth and out of distortion, members of the enterprise must act by any means necessary, including through unlawful and criminal activities such as physical
Sure did.
abuse, torture, psychological abuse, and
Thank you.
brainwashing, even when these actions culminate in murder, as demonstrated by Frankie's implementation of the enterprise's teachings through the torture and near murder of her children.
I was like,
41.
"What?"
While these tactics were uncovered to the public in August 2023 in the Hildebrandt and Frankie aggravated child abuse proceedings, the
There
enterprise
you
has
go.
aggressively sought implementation of Hildebrandt's methodology through these tactics for nearly 2 decades. 42. Savage has been
Wow.
enthusiastically employing Hildebrandt's methods against plaintiff and his daughter for nearly a decade. 43. The core path to indoctrination into the enterprise by Hildebrandt was illuminated during Frankie's December 18, 2023, plea hearing by explanation of her attorneys.
I didn't know that, Lamisa. And what have I been sleeping or something? Brad Wilcox has been accused of horrible stuff. Of course, none of it ever sticks, and it never does, right? And so Angela says each coven adopting a playbook, in my opinion. It's like they're tasked with it or something. Like if you want to be in this group, because that's what they go by, the group. You could, replace that with the enterprise or the network or the coven or the group. It's the same thing, different groups, but they all dabble in the same thing. Imma have to crush I've read my I'm gonna have to go look at Reddit. It's been a while. I used to stay on Reddit. I've heard, and I mean, I've just heard, I haven't read things for myself, but I've seen his name pop up on the shows that I watch, the ex-Mormons that I do watch. So, I will dive into that. Yes, in my opinion, right? I think so. And this was interesting how sorry, my damn throat, Valo curse. Multi-level marketing. I mean, if you look at the structure of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it is structured like an MLM. So is their heaven. Okay. I'm sorry, heavens. And actually, on my channel membership, we have it structured that way too. We have celestial, which is the bottom heaven. And it's basically what the world is now. And then terrestrial is the next plane up and the next heaven up. And um, then that's probably where people, who in I mean, in the LDS frame of mind, I guess if I had to task it with anything, the second heaven or the terrestrial would be the temple recommend holding folk. And then, the celestial kingdom or whatever, the celestial kingdom would be the church of the firstborn people. That's the people who have sacrificed to get there, literally, in my opinion. That's just me. So I like that you said multi-level marketing. I have had Amway rolling around in my head, regarding their scheme for quite a while. Now the blueprint is confirmed. Speaking of blueprints, right? And then Chris said, Joe Schmo, Amway is with this casting cult with Mike Signorelli. I don't know how to say that. And his V1 church. That's crazy. I know you sent me some churches or that the Phoenix, Ar- Arizona Phoenix or something. And I was like, who are these people? Who are they? And so I'm asking you that now. Who are they? All right. Celestial terrestrial, not black MX platinum level heaven. No, no, no. Oh, I think I deleted that too. Damn it. That's how it goes. I used to have that from Gordon. Gordon Bowen is who came up with the American Express uh, motto. Membership has its privileges, right? So when you really put it all into when you plug in all the players, it's holy shit. It's crazy. It's these people. It's oh, I didn't push it. It's these people. It's like it's a whole slew of them. And it's like you get a job, you get a job, you get a job, or a mission, you get a mission, you get a mission. Charles was gonna get in the way of Lori's mission. Okay. Well, when did she get this mission? And I don't think it was one she tasked herself with. I just heard some really weird growl, okay, come out of my little window over there. Hopefully, it was a cow. I pray to God it was a cow. We don't have cows right there, but I hope it was. Anyways, we're gonna we're gonna continue to play this while I figure it out.
Initially, Miss Franke believed that Jodi Hildebrandt had the insight to offer a path to continually improvement. Miss Hildebrandt took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous and systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss
They
Franke
were
being
training their
subjected
kids.
to a distorted sense of morality shaped by Miss Hildebrandt's influence. 44. Hildebrandt and the Enterprise perpetuated this same indoctrination with Savage. Savage initially sought Hildebrandt for counseling, only to then decide to join the Enterprise and implement its teachings, including through physical abuse of her and Plaintiff's daughter, in her attempts to isolate Plaintiff from his daughter, parents, and siblings to coerce him to reject distortion, embrace truth, and submit to Hildebrandt's absolute authority. B. The Enterprise's methodology, truth, distortion, pain, and boundaries. 45. As commonly implemented in cults which aim for thought control, mind control, and brainwashing, the
Oh.
Enterprise developed unique vernacular that is not understandable to outsiders.
So
Specifically, the
does the church.
Enterprise uses the terms truth, distortion, pain, and boundaries to describe its core methodologies. 47. As described above per the Enterprise, truth encompasses all aspects of Hildebrandt teachings. Similarly, when an associate accepts Hildebrandt as their truth, then whatever that associate does or believes also constitutes truth, even if that belief or action is criminal or violates societal norms. 48. Under Hildebrandt's methodology, the terms reality and principles are used interchangeably with the term truth. If one espouses Hildebrandt's methodology, they are in reality, and one follows principles when they follow Hildebrandt.
There it goes.
49. According to the Enterprise, one lives in truth when he or she lives the principles of honesty, humility, and responsibility. Members of the Enterprise use these terms to manipulate their victims, i.e., a
Mhm.
victim is not honest nor accepting responsibility if they disagree with a false accusation by a member of the Enterprise. One is not humble if they are not willing to accept the Enterprise's methodology and submit to Hildebrandt's will. 50. Similarly, and as described further below, rather than exhibiting honesty, humility, and responsibility in the traditional sense of the words, members of
Mhm.
the Enterprise engage in criminally dishonest behavior, including perjury and obstruction of justice, and
Oh,
do not take responsibility for the criminal and tortious behavior in
watch
which they
'em.
engage. Per Hildebrandt's methodology, anyone who disagrees with her
Good.
teachings or the Enterprise's objectives is in distortion and is ripe for punishment, including torture at the hands of the Enterprise's members. 52. Defendants and members of the Enterprise use the truth and distortion in all facets of life, as demonstrated by Hildebrandt's representations on the Connection's now defunct website. I have spent over 25 years working with people just like you to help facilitate positive and powerful change. I
She
began
came up so.
practicing in the psychotherapy world, and my patients were not healing. When I began empowering people by educating
Whoa,
them
whoa,
with
whoa, whoa,
principles of
whoa.
truth, I saw
I mean, just that statement right there. I have spent over 25 years working with people just like you to help facilitate positive and powerful change. This is the sentence that just caught my attention. So this is where she was, allegedly. Then she says, I began practicing in the psychotherapy world and my patients were not healing. Maybe you're just a crappy psychotherapist. Okay. That doesn't mean you get to go do something different, allegedly. I like what so what? I don't know. I'm kind of confused by that now. It didn't sound right. Let
I
me
have
play it
spent
again.
over 25 years working with people just like you to help facilitate positive and powerful change. I began practicing in the psychotherapy world, and my patients were not healing. When I began empowering people by educating them with principles of truth, I saw my patients radically change right in front of me. You don't
Mhm.
have to be a victim to your circumstances or the people around you. You can have the life you want, but you must dispose of distortion's ugly lies in order to live in truth, connection, and freedom.
It's so destructive.
Start your training with connections to work on the foundations necessary to uncover the truth. You have the power to make positive and long lasting changes that can transform your life and completely change the path that you're on.
You're
Methodology
on?
through the Connections podcast, which was
Stupid robot.
broadcast through Connections, and episodes of which were hosted either by Hildebrandt or Frankie.
And to know that those come directly from Eternal Core, and that is Thomas Harrison, Thomas G. Harrison, boy, Visions of Glory, dude, and who's also wait, whoa, let's back up. Who is also was a therapist, okay, for SA, child SA, ritualistic type stuff. He was even talking to the brethren about he was trying to convince them that SRA was a real phenomenon. And I'm like, is it because you benefit from that? Because you know what you're doing? You know? But I mean, just the fact that Tom Harrison is involved in Gordon Bowen and Barbara Timothy's divorce. Anyways, and then you have hold on, and then he's involved in Chad and Julie Rowe. He's meeting with Chad and Julie Rowe, to teach in his Salt Lake City office. So Chad was driving his fat ass all the way over to Salt Lake City, but yet Tammy had to work. You know what I'm saying? It's those kind of things that just drive me mad. Okay. And so he and Julie were going to Tom Harrison's office and to teach them, and Tom was teaching them how to remote view, which is what they refer to as portaling. Okay, again, it's like these definitions that outsiders don't understand. We've laughed about portaling, I don't know how many times. I will still laugh about it. He put Chad made a portal in Lori's closet. I mean, I'm just like, sounds stupid. Then Melanie Gibbs said that Chad had a portal on his bed. And I was like, gross. I bet that was in the cozy cone. Anyways, um, it's just why, and then why is he giving Tim Ballard priesthood blessings and such? Why are him and Ken Krogh, giving Timothy Ballard oh, I have a crappy mouse, so yeah, both men administered priesthood blessings, proselytizing that Tim Ballard would become the future prophet and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Oh, I didn't even that's a misspelling. I did that wrong. Did I do this one right? Would be involved in each of these individuals' lives. And then not only that, but in every except for Lori. I don't know, I haven't heard of anything about Lori meeting with Tom Harrison. But your cult leaders here are Julie Rowe, and then Tim Ballard's cult, and then Chad Daybell's cult, and then Jodi Hildebrandt's cult, and then where's Tom Harrison's cult? Or are they under his MLM? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just super gross. Anyways, all right. Sorry.
A description for one podcast mentions truth, reality, or distortion 8 times. What does it take to
Mhm.
live in truth? The answer is it takes a person's willingness to stay in reality, use your choices, and choose truth. Why
I
is
think
truth reality
so.
so
I
uncomfortable
do.
that many people run from it? The answer is there's pain in reality. There's pain, inevitable pain inside reality from things like loss, death, hurt, disappointments, loneliness, anger, greed, rage.
I too like the way this lawsuit is laid out, y'all. I mean, this is such a I don't this is what I've been trying to do is to make it put it into a format, but I mean, just add all their damn names, basically, right? And so I wanted to talk more about this. Let's ponder on this. Let's ponderize. Tom was handing out missions. I really feel this was happening as well. I really have you're not when you said that though, it just was like, "Oh my god, hashtag me too," right? So, let's just put a pin in that. Let's think about that. You know, that'll be our homework. Yes, I'm assigning homework. Close your damn mouth, Ken. Right? Yes, I agree. I concur. And oh, they live by the law of attraction for sure, which comes from what's her name, Blavatsky. what is it, Madame Blavatsky or something? For some reason, blanking on her first name. Yeah, and that is the law of attraction. Ken Krogh wrote a book with, Stephen Covey, and who was, all involved with M. Russell Ballard's, with him, and it's like the 7 it's this whole law of attraction type of rhetoric, it's like the 7 something, I forget the name of it right now. All these cult leaders look like weak, manly men, even Jodi. Imma say that. You didn't say that, but Imma say it. They're not even charismatic or even halfway attractive. Why do women fall for them? I don't know. Yes, Stephen Covey. Yes. Lynn Packer reported on it. No, I thought about you too. Yeah, co-wrote a book together, Stephen Covey and Ken Krogh. Helen, thank you. I blank. All these damn names in my head that I have to keep up. And on top of that, most of the abusers and predators are also members of high-ranking and wealthy, so the system is to push down, get them out the algorithm, so to speak, right? If we're gonna speak like tech terms you know, and if they're making them money, then they're gonna push them. They're going to have their bishops refer their members to people like Jodi, people like David Hamblin and such. And I'm sure Tom Harrison, I don't know that for sure, but just let's think about that. And then it creates this echo chamber, but also the way they want to live the law of consecration and the united order, so to speak. You know that the Hamblins, like the Hamblin daughters, they actually talk about this, about how while they were being abused and stuff, they would have to recite the united order. And I was like, mother effer, holy crap. Y'all, the United Order, Joseph Smith wrote a long time ago, and I was like, when I was reading it by accident, I think one day I ran across that, uh, oh my god, Divergent. When I was reading hold on, I'm gonna pin this. Whenever I was reading the United Order, I was like, "This really" I'm just that's the way my brain works. Like, I don't know, I never read about the one world government type of conspiracy thing. I never did. But I'm like, I mean, I'm really good at, like, when I look at the title of a video or a headline or something, I can pretty much bank on what's in there. I'm just like, so that's what's going on. Okay, so I'm just I kind of collectively collect these things, okay? And then I'm just like, this really resembles that NWO program. Anyway, so the fact that the Hamblin daughters were forced allegedly to, recite it is really interesting. And then Divergent says 8 passengers, 7 gatherers, 6, 5. Who are they? And then so on and so forth. Good one, actually. Hmm. That's more homework. Okay. There, thank you. Stephen R. Covey, author, Ken Krogh too, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that's who was doing the whiteboard meetings that we have here for the members for sure. You can see it. I would publish it, but they'll just harass me and make me take it down or do like what Michelle McDermott did. And I mean, I just got rid of a copyright strike because of her. She's like, anyways, if you're not doing nothing wrong, then why does it bother you? Because it isn't the fact that I have it. I mean, it isn't the fact that she did it with, these firesides. It's the fact that I had it. Okay. Don't leave your shit out. That's all I say. Don't leave your shit out because I'm here to expose. I was on the XJW Reddit reading about, I've read there too, reading about the decades and decades of SA. So many men and women went through, and these abusers were never ever prosecuted. It enraged you. Yes. It's the same thing, different day. That's all. Ooh, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers. Rockefellers, Illuminati. I went down that rabbit hole in the 90s. One world order, one world government, one world currency, one world religion. Well, with that being, and you got to think about like the early leaders of the Mormon church for sure. They were involved in the Freeman Institute, Glenn Beck, I mean, like they're John Birch Society kind of people. It's interesting. And David Levitt, someone is suing WTP. What's WTP? Oh crap! I don't do good with acronyms, and I'm sorry. I don't know, but for going over what David Levitt, someone is suing. Oh, We the People podcast. Yeah, I was watching, actually, what's his face? Because he goes Jason Preston and Alexia Preston, they have a podcast, they call it, but, I mean, they have a YouTube channel as well, and it's We Are the People podcast, and that's where Goel, could go on as a guest, and he would share his research, just like I would love for him to do here. And, anyways, Ken Krogh was deposed. This is what I'm trying to figure out. Why was Ken Krogh deposed? Was he working for Goel? Because I want to know that. Because, like, whenever I found out that Joe Binion and another alleged Church of Satan, LDS Church of Satan Punisher, just like Gordon Bowen, um, why did Joe Binion depose Ken Krogh? And I'm trying to find that out. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry too. It kind of hit me. But yeah, I did see Jason Preston, who has spoke on these conferences. Okay, the same Firm Foundation, Book of Mormon Evidence conferences. So I'm always leery of those kind of people, and I'm just like, but okay, because I try to figure out who's who and who's faking and who's like who's friends with who, you know. Um, but I saw where, I mean, he is just very disappointed in his church. And I mean, it sucks to see that happen, when someone's shelf is breaking, so to speak, but it also it's like what I believe Lori and Chad need. I believe that their shelf needs to be broken in order to come to terms with what they've done, to get out from under their demonic possessions, okay, or whatever the hell they're doing. They are definitely following the Dark Lord, in my opinion. If there's any Lord at all they're following, it's the Dark One. And this enterprise here has got it so distorted, so zombified, so inverted that it is coming out the yang yang, okay? And I mean, this isn't the end. Unfortunately, it's not. And I mean, I wish I could say it would. It was, but what connection? We really appreciate much. Megan Connor has an interview coming soon. What? Okay. Reminder, since we really appreciate her so much, Megan Connor has an interview coming soon with John DeLynn. I'm looking forward to it. I didn't know that. Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, definitely. I need to watch the one about about Sherry Frankie's book. I still haven't watched it, which is weird for me. Weird, weird, weird. Yeah, but I mean, it was good to see that, he was seeing how his church is handling things. They don't know. I really don't think that a lot of members know. They're only supposed to go and research the internet, trusted resources. Notice there's none here because they'll be like, "Oh, she's just anti-Mormon." That's what we get labeled as, anti-Mormon. So the crow, yes. Well, and I remember Ryan Fisher saying that Ken Krogh was in his ward, or was it you or was it Chris? Hmm. And then I remember Ryan Fisher telling John DeLynn, or they found out during Ryan Fisher's interview that they were also in the same ward at one time or something. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. It was long. Yeah, they usually are. but I've watched so many other ones that had nothing to do with this, so I need to go watch it. Yeah, thanks for letting us know, Lamisa. Always.
And most people think that they can run from it, that they can hide from those things. The truth is, when you attempt to leave reality, you run right into the arms of distortion, and now you really will have pain. Listen to how not to be deceived. Hildebrandt teaches her associates that they do not need to adhere to the law because the law itself can be a distortion. An example of this occurred in a video in which Hildebrandt instructs a woman, and by implication all women and mothers, to violate a father's parental rights.
Boom.
In the video, despite recognizing...
Who does that sound like besides Jodi? Because it's coming right from the horse's mouth, right?
Hildebrandt teaches her associates that they do not need to adhere to the law because the law itself can be a distortion.
Is this a higher law? Melchizedek?
An example of this occurred in a video in which Hildebrandt instructs a woman, and by implication all women and mothers, to violate a father's parental rights.
Joe Ryan. I'm just saying. Here, I'm gonna shake it up a little bit. I don't even know what this is, but it's something I captured before they deleted it, or before they were told, before Mormon Stories podcast was told they had to take it down.
He was scared he'd lose his job, he'd lose everything as it started to develop. And my mother, Deborah Steed, my mom, she had a dream that she found like a family in our house that wasn't, it was like a stranger family she didn't know, and in a house that we owned, and she didn't know why they were there. And she was asking them to leave, and they had this 14-year-old boy, and he just like put this injured hand up, and he said, "Help." And
glad you're out.
She woke up from her dream and started crying, and was like, told my dad, "You have to change these laws." And so
I'm seeing on Google, it was 2006 when Idaho Governor Dirk Kempthorne signed the bill.
Okay,
that eliminated a statute of limitations.
Okay, and I was at that press conference. I spoke next to the governor with
my then Frank
wife,
Vandersloot comes in.
Morwenna, and we spoke to, I spoke at that as I signed that. My brother signed that, and afterwards the scouting people then gave us the Medal of Merit, their most prestigious award.
Okay.
That was for helping save kids after a settlement. So they changed it then, but in the process of changing it, it was this fight. Like nobody, like the many things, like you get a story inside of a story and a story, and huge influencers like the billionaire Frank Vandersloot was writing up op-eds that probably I think they cost $100,000 worth of advertising over a period of time or something. I don't know the number. I heard someone say that to talk about like this child abuse story. It wasn't the case, there were letters going as if they came from the first presidency all over the Mormon church in Idaho and Utah talking about this singular event. That there was
like it was a singular
done the right response with child abuse. It only happened once, and we published those in the Peter Zuckerman Post Register. We published that letter, and then all these victims came forward, and there was all this documentation of cover-ups, and this story just started exploding. And but it was so difficult. The statutes would have never changed, but my father called, and my mother, they got all these victims coming forward, and they got these people to write letters, and my mom put them all together and got them organized, and my dad gave them to all the senators to see the true situation, and it just things just started to open up. And then even like there was like this one guy that was like over the Senate that wouldn't let it happen, and my dad was every day talking to Curtin McConkie, the LDS Church law firm, and they were coaching and trying to, I don't know if they were coaching, even my dad, in those times, our church area authority had this inspiration for us that we weren't supposed to do the punitive child abuse case, but just settle for.
They don't believe in suing.
That wasn't punitive, and we followed 100%. And we were important because they wanted us, but my dad just kept bringing this truth up and this just process, and they were on the phone all the time, Curtin McConkie. And I remember in one phone call, my dad was talking about this, like, I don't know if it's Senate pro temp or something, but he was a previous mission president, and he was the biggest advocate to stop the child abuse laws from being changed right before they would vote on them. And
okay, hold on. And then I pulled this one up too, because I'm extra. Oh, I didn't switch it. Hold on. Damn it.
Passionate about where he's completely free to the public. He does things like this because he's passionate, spends a lot of money on a spectacular freedom fireworks celebration that's completely free to the public. He does things like this because he's passionate about where he lives and what happens in his community. Sometimes that means speaking out on controversial issues.
So this is Frank Vandersloot's campaign, it looks like, allegedly, whenever the Boy Scouts of America stuff came out with Adam Paul Steed. Okay. So he was talking about how him and his parents and his brother, and, you know, they were doing all these things to get the statute laws changed and all that right there in Idaho. This is where Adam Paul Steed is from, southern Idaho, southeast Idaho, in Idaho Falls, okay, which is not far from Rexburg. And then, okay, let me jump back over there. Oop, oop. Okay, so this is what he did. This is what Frank Vandersloot did with accusations accusing Boy Scouts of America whistleblowers like Adam Paul Steed.
This is pretty much the purebred operation.
Frank Vandersloot loves the outdoors and he loves to speak his mind. So when a proposed development in Fremont County threatened scenic views, he took out full-page newspaper ads against the project.
I love nature. I love to drive and see the forests and the wildlife.
Not only that, he's been one of the most vocal opponents of a wind farm project in Wolverine Canyon. He put up huge anti-windmill signs and petitioned county commissioners to vote against the mills.
I'm not an environmentalist like an environmentalist that wants to stop everything. It's the forest and the streams that I think we ought to protect.
Frank's also been involved in other controversial issues, but perhaps none as well known as his battle with the Post-Register. In 2005, the paper published a 6-part series about Boy Scouts who were molested by their camp leader.
I do think that Boy Scout thing was way out of line.
Frank wasn't upset the Post ran the story, but he didn't like the way they did it. So he used his monthly community page news ad in the Post-Register to attack the Post-Register. He even hired a law firm to conduct comprehensive research into the story.
Now, that doesn't mean there weren't mistakes made, and that doesn't mean that there weren't children that were molested, for Pete's sake. But I felt like they were trying to blame the wrong people. Instead of blaming the molester, they were trying to blame all the youth groups and the Boy Scouts, and they were trying to blame the leaders, and they're trying to blame their church organizations.
The Post-Register believes it did nothing wrong and stands by the story. No one mentioned in the articles ever asked the paper to issue any corrections, clarifications, or retractions, and the story won numerous awards. State laws concerning child abuse were even changed because of the series. Are you still at odds with the Post-Register of the whole Boy Scout thing?
Not at all.
In fact, both Frank and the Post-Register believe they learned from the disagreement.
I didn't understand the sensitivity of the victims on all this. I've learned a lot, became really good friends, really good friends with some of the victims that were involved.
It was around this time when Frank became interested in acquiring media outlets himself. He ended up purchasing 5 high-rated radio stations from Bonneville Communications.
We're ready to kick off the lunch hour.
And rename.
Y'all did hear that, right? I mean, this is where I've gotten all my information, is from listening to these reports over the years, okay? Just, I don't know. And so we have Nate Eaton, East Idaho News, right here. We have Frank Vandersloot, who purchased from the church, because the church owns Bonneville Communications. Gordon Bowen worked for Bonneville Communications, okay? And so you have Frank Vandersloot, you know, he doesn't like the way the story was painting his religion. He said, you know, churches and no, yours, your church, because that's the only church there, basically. That's the only church Rexburg for sure. And it's right outside of Idaho Falls, is mostly Mormon. Okay. So you didn't like the way your church, in my opinion, was being portrayed. So you went and bought newspapers and radio stations, which one day would cover my family's murder cases and would spin the narrative in its own little way to push it all away from and drive a narrative that's not accurate, okay? And it would drive it away from you practicing Satanist and your church. Maybe the practicing Satanists within your church. Are you one? I don't know. I'm asking. Don't buy YouTube.
Aimed the group Riverbend Communications.
I know that I've appreciated when my kids listen to good music, and I like stations to listen to that offer that.
I declare my intention to run for president of the United States.
Franks also dabbled in politics, endorsing candidates like Mitt Romney.
Thank you, Governor, for being here again with us.
Jim Risch, and voicing his opposition against others.
Judge Herndon would have been one of those. Kathy Silik on the Supreme Court was one of those. When you get enough opinion that the job isn't being done correctly, you could draw conclusions that we'd be better off to have somebody new in the position.
Are you ever going to run for politics or for office?
I would be bad at it. I like to be in a position where I can get something done.
Puppeteer.
And they've got, it's all this negotiations and deal makings and all of that stuff going
I'd rather
on.
just influence
That I don't think I'd be good at it.
Yeah.
Well, he does get stuff done. Now, Frank has also been in the headlines recently concerning a lawsuit involving a former employee. He can't comment on the case because it has not yet been resolved. Now, coming up tomorrow,
he outed him. The guy was gay, and he outed him, allegedly.
Tomorrow at 10, Frank talks candidly about his wife and how they've raised their 14 children.
Whose one of them's name is Charissa, and that particular name was named, we actually got it from the FOIA docs from Chandler, and it was a conversation between Lori and Alex the day that JJ was murdered, and she's like, where are you at? Where you been? Da-da-da-da. And finally he texts her back, Alex texts her back and says, getting a fresh ceiling from Charissa. And I'm like, well, you don't say, huh? Quinky
We don't buy them anything. They got to buy their own stuff. But we've said we'll pay half.
Okay.
So if somebody wants a video game, it's got to be the appropriate video game. But as long as it's something that's not going to hurt them.
What if it hurts others?
We'll say we don't say yes you can or no you can't. We say, can you afford it?
Okay.
We'll also take a look at what the future holds for Vandersloot. Now, if you missed part one of our series that aired last night,
it was your job, buddy. All right. Anyways, enough about that. All right. We'll go back to the lawsuit. I guess I can go on and on and on about this stuff all day. So yeah, we'll start here.
Hildebrandt teaches her associates that they do not need to adhere to the law because the law itself can be a distortion. An example of this occurred in a video in which Hildebrandt instructs a woman, and by implication all women and mothers, to violate a father's parental rights. In the video, despite recognizing a father's legal right to be with his child, Hildebrandt instructs this woman to cut her ex-romantic partner off from their child because the law is in distortion. I understand why the law does this, because there's so much deception going on that the law, quote unquote, they don't know what the truth is. They don't know who's telling the truth.
Gaslight, lie.
Another key piece of vernacular for the enterprise is pain. The enterprise teaches that pain is the mechanism by which individuals leave distortion and come into truth. Defendants in the enterprise fixate on pain in their teachings, which are communicated through, among other mediums, social media posts, podcasts, and web pages. 56. Defendants in the enterprise use Hildebrandt's methodology to justify engaging in criminal and tortious behavior against their victims. Because, as the enterprise teaches, these actions cause the pain necessary for victims to leave distortion and come into truth. Another piece of enterprise vernacular is boundaries. Defendants further justify their actions by describing their criminal and tortious actions as boundaries, which victims of the enterprise are required to respect by an invitation from a member of the enterprise. For example, Hildebrandt and Franke would invite the minor children to come into truth by providing them with a boundary of following Hildebrandt's methodology.
Oh my God, that's interesting. And it also sounds like a Freemason, but anyways.
The consequence of failure to follow a
not just Freemason, but also a temple recommend or the second anointing. There's many of these kind of things.
Example, Hildebrandt and Franke would invite the minor children to come into truth by providing them with a boundary of following.
I wonder if that is, like, if I'm looking at this as satanic ritual abuse, then it's like people like Diddy, how they would allegedly give their victims, drink that was tainted spiked with, an elusive drug that would make them forget things. And it's like a way of submitting to your free will, like saying, or like giving them permission, because it's like these certain boundaries that demons can't cross, so to speak. I don't know. It's just interesting. Get your kids to make the choices. And of course, if you make it fun enough or whatever, they're like, yeah, sure. Or promise them ice cream afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a con.
Following Hildebrandt's methodology.
I don't know if you follow
The consequence of failure to follow a boundary of Hildebrandt and Franke was torture, as demonstrated by the criminal acts of child torture perpetuated by Hildebrandt, Franke, and other members of the Enterprise. 60. This destructive scheme is designed to brainwash individuals to recruit them into the Enterprise and to fraudulently make significant amounts of money by coercing victims to pay for services and products through connections that both cause significant and ongoing pain and manipulate victims into believing they need additional services and products sold by connections to rehabilitate themselves.
Which tracks, because they always, all these people, even the church and of the like, okay, you can apply this to any system that controls. Okay. So what I'm seeing here is, it's like, hey, something's wrong with you. I'm the medium that, you have to go through me. And whenever you go through me, I'll get you healed. I'll get you saved. You'll get to heaven through me. All the things. And then it's like they have the answer. They have the solution. Okay. Which is, it goes hand in hand with the shock doctrine. If you ever look that up, shock doctrine. They use all these, like Tim Ballard using R word. And the way he talks about the victims, he's not sensitive to these so-called victims that he claims to rescue. Very vulgar, very shock doctrine, I always thought, I kind of thought it was admirable at first, because I don't want to not say murder, because it is what it is. It's murder. Okay. But yet I get penalized on YouTube if I use murder to describe what happened to my family members. And I find that really weird. I don't think it's to be sensitive and not triggering for viewers. I think it's to control the narrative. Okay. That's my piece. It's controlling free speech.
Thereby increasing the financial gain of the enterprise. C. Fabricating pathologies to isolate, punish, and manipulate victims into truth. Another fraudulent aspect of the enterprise's scheme is to fabricate pathologies in psychologically healthy individuals to manipulate them into purchasing services and products from connections to cure these false pathologies, all to the financial benefit of the enterprise. 62. Examples of false pathologies that members of...
I couldn't get over there fast enough. But that right there, that also reminds me of how David Hamblin, oh my God, let me grab it real quick. Brett Bluth, Fox 13 News. Got to hear this. Oh, yeah. First arrest made in Utah County, a ritualistic child SA. Hold on. Okay, Bluth. All right. Bluth expressed optimism. Oh, whoa. In an interview with Fox 13 News in April, alleged victim Brett Bluth described a long period of abuse and grooming by Hamblin as he tried to heal Bluth of his homosexuality. Bluth expressed optimism that charges would be filed against Hamblin. Quote, I do think it will be different this time. Bluth said, hypnosis was a big part of my treatment. He told me from the very beginning that was his main technique, unquote. Bluth said Hamblin spent hours each week trying to convince Bluth that he was abused during his childhood. Yeah, you were abused. Yes. And that he had multiple personality disorder, quote, due to systemic ritual and sexual abuse, unquote. He had a yellow notepad with lined papers of notes, and he would read them back to me saying, quote, this is what one of your personalities said while you were under hypnosis. Bluth said, I told him I was never under, but I went home from those sessions thinking I'd hurt other people. Bluth said Hamblin hinted at the need for his patient to perform sex acts for several months in order to be cured of his homosexuality. Quote, he started suggesting that the semen of they do believe this. Okay. He started suggesting that the semen of a righteous man would then undo the damage that the semen of the unrighteous men had done, unquote. Bluth described, quote, he put his arm on the back of the sofa and he put his other arm back and he waited. And we sat there in silence. He put his hands on my head and gave me a Mormon priesthood blessing. And bless this, I'm sorry, priesthood. A Mormon priesthood. He gave me a Mormon priesthood. I'm sure that sounds like it should have been blessing. But anyways, and bless the sperm, unquote. Sorry, I jacked that quote up. And it says, years later, Bluth confronted Hamblin and told him to turn over his license to the state, just like Jodi. Although Hamblin is no longer a licensed therapist, he often conducts therapeutic, quote, peyote ceremonies, unquote, through his church and has advocated for its use, which, I mean, he's in with James Mooney. And they actually found a loophole in the Native American laws. And so 501c3, I'm sure. And it says, quote, I think the emotional abuse was far more damaging than the sexual abuse, Bluth said. And so, I mean, it's just interesting because I'm telling you, birds of a feather damn flock together. They do. They do.
For over 45 years has taken a
and it's gross. But, I mean, we're on to them. We are on to them. I'm going to let it play real quick. Speaking of, wasn't that Tony Hawk?
Office has arrested its first suspect in a ritualistic child sex abuse
He's out on
investigation,
bail.
but they think there will be more arrests.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbitz has been following the story all year and just received the probable cause statement in this arrest. Adam, what does it say?
Well, yeah, Bob Kelly, we have been accumulating information on this man, David Hamblin, since February. Today, the sheriff's office confirmed its investigation does not stop with his arrest. There are still multiple victims, multiple suspects. Each story is different, but the common thread is that the allegations are very disturbing.
Maybe. I mean, let's look.
The first time we heard David Hamblin's name was in 2012, charged with 18 felony counts of sex abuse against multiple family members. This video shows Provo police spending months conducting interviews.
I have
Then
those.
They recorded an undercover phone call where he confessed, I am sorry for raping you. I'm not saying somebody in my body didn't do it. The Utah County Attorney's Office dropped the charges.
Do you think this time it will be different?
I do think it will be different.
Brett Bluth, another victim, says David Hamblin was his therapist, recommended to him by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to cure him of his homosexuality.
Did you feel like being gay was a disease?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had spent my entire life viewing that as a disease. Hypnosis was a big part of it. He told me that from the very beginning, that was his main technique.
He says Hamblin spent hours each week trying to convince him he was abused in his childhood, that he has multiple personalities.
Being gay was a disease?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had spent my entire life viewing that as a disease. Hypnosis was a big part of it. He told me that from the very beginning, that was his main technique.
He says Hamblin spent hours each week trying to convince him he was abused in his childhood, that he has multiple personality disorder.
I went home from those sessions thinking that I had hurt other people.
And that the only way to get rid of it would be to reenact the trauma with a righteous man.
He put his arm on the back of the sofa, and he put his other arm back here, and he waited. And we sat there in silence as I did nothing.
Wow.
Years later, he confronted Dr. Hamblin and told him to turn over his license to the state. Hamblin is no longer a licensed therapist, but often conducts therapeutic peyote ceremonies through his church.
And I think that the emotional portion, the emotional damage he caused for me was far more damaging than the actual sexual abuse.
And I can sense the fear in the voice of some of these people who have called us.
Sergeant Spencer Cannon with the Utah County Sheriff's Office says investigators have listened to more than 130 tips, most of them credible, but he could not say how many mentioned Hamblin.
There's a lot,
The case has been
y'all.
open since April of last year, but
That's
this year, also in April, a new female victim came forward, describing sexual assaults between the ages of 6 and 13.
Let insurance deal with it too.
In at least one instance, other children were present. In another, she says she was ordered to perform sex acts on an adult female, a woman who is not considered a victim.
Do you expect there will be additional arrests?
We do at some point, yes.
Come on with it.
It's very active. We have victims we're still working with, and so we anticipate that we'll have other arrests to make in this case.
And this is exactly what Goel works on, this very case, okay? And instead, when people cover it, that's why, you know, like I've got every one of those, the case files in the Hamblin case. I've got reports, victim statements. That's where I go and gather most of my information, and the belief system and all the things that they alleged have happened to them. Okay. And so there's a lot of victims, y'all. And this has been going on since, I mean, this particular case for sure, since the 90s. And I mean, Satanic Panic was out at that time. I'm telling you, I believe these are the same people that people were reporting, that were reportedly victims, and that Bishop Glenn Pace was, you know, conducting that report on. And because they go to the meeting houses like Chad Daybell after hours and stuff. Did Ian and Chad sacrifice cats in the damn meeting house that was like 2.6 miles away from his house, where Alex Cox laid in wait, you know, to go help maybe Chad Daybell kill Tammy? Did they pass her through there? I mean, what sick shit are they doing? I don't put nothing past them. I don't. And they blend in with, like, they get in trouble if you're in the LDS Church of Satan. They get in trouble if you don't hold dual membership. You have to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. You have to. So anyways, we'll go
David
back.
Hamblin is being held without bail in Utah County.
No longer.
And even though that's where he was arrested, the Juab County Attorney's Office will be handling this case. Now, you might remember for the past few months, we've explained how Utah County Attorney David Levitt named himself as a suspect and described his link to Hamblin.
He outed himself as a suspect and was like, we don't do cannibalism. There is no organized network. But he outed himself, but then he blames the sheriff for doing it, and that an election is coming up. And that's, he was just poking fun at me, you know?
Tomorrow, we will have more information on that part of the story.
And then that's the Glenn Pace memo I was reading from earlier from my phone, right at the very beginning of this video. Michael Levitt is his brother, and he was the governor a couple times. And then this one, David Levitt right here, I mean, his family owns Levitt Funeral Homes, which is interesting, as well as he allegedly procured a Native American baby girl, walked right on, according to Levitt, he walked right onto the reservation and walked off with a Native American girl, a baby girl, Alessandra Fishing Hawk. And he was prosecuting her real mother and stuff like that. And he was a county prosecutor. And so he's also named as an alleged by the Hamblin victim daughters, Hamblin daughters. In the victim statements, he's named as a conspirator. That's his role. There's a protector, conspirator, Peter Familius, Punisher. There's different, the peacemaker, all kinds of things. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And I believe that Lori and Chad are just another ugly, ugly instance of this. I think Jodi Hildebrandt is another instance of this. Ruby too. I mean, yeah. Partners in crime, right? I do believe. And I mean, I do hope I am right about because it explains so freaking much. They're not going to tell me. Anyways.
Of the enterprise attached to victims include non-existent pornography addictions, sex addictions, lying addictions, and control addictions.
To the
body.
body.
To treat these phantom pathologies, The enterprise requires victims to pay for lengthy and expensive 12-step addiction programs sold by the enterprise. Counseling services labeled.
I mean, but you say that, Lamisa, but Gordon Bowen lived in New York City. He worked on Madison Avenue, and he was he worked for Rubicon and, oh my God, Young and Rubicon or something like that. And these ad agencies where Mitt Romney's sons would even go and they interned for him. But I always wondered, did Gordon Bowen attend any of Diddy's parties, in the Hamptons or what have you? I mean, just wondering. They're billionaires and make money and they like to diddle and allegedly and stuff. It just would not surprise me. Hamblins were there too. And then the Hamblins were also in Tucson, Arizona. And that is where Jodi Hildebrandt was born and raised. Notice none of her family, none of Jesse. Did I say Jesse just now on accident? If so, sorry. But like Jodi Hildebrandt was, born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. And then the Hamblins go there. And I'm thinking, did they have hookup parties? Did they do swap parties? Or did they train each other's kids? What happened? What's going on here? And that comment about they got MK'd, I think it was Divergent that said it, maybe. Perfect. Yeah, Brett Bluth was MK'd, MK Ultra. Ugh, it's so disgusting. Tom Harris, I mean, it's a lot to do with these therapists, they say. I don't know.
Sold as life coaching services, self-help retreats, workshops, classes, and various digital and written materials. 64. Similarly, the enterprise uses false pathologies as rationale to separate individuals from their spouses, families, or other individuals who could otherwise help victims from being lured in and manipulated by the enterprise. The enterprise teaches that any outside individuals who are not members of the enterprise are in distortion.
Sorry, but I mean, I got to point it out, okay? Or I'll never remember.
64. Similarly,
does this not sound like Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey?
Enterprise uses false pathologies as rationale to separate individuals from their spouses, families, or other individuals who could otherwise help victims from being lured in and manipulated by the enterprise. The enterprise teaches that any outside individual.
I mean, it kind of sounded like it sounds like an MLM, with the recruitment and stuff. I'm not saying it's verbatim. I'm just saying it just kind of echoes Jeffrey and Ghislaine. Which, I mean, someone did make the comment before in the lawsuits against Tim Ballard that Janet Russin was the Ghislaine to Tim.
Those who are not members of the enterprise are in distortion and will impede the victim's journey into truth. 65. Through an interview with NBC News, former patients indicated that a primary focus of the enterprise, specifically for men under Hildebrandt's control.
Sorry, but I have thought this, Chris. I have thought this. I'm like, this is not just a freaking serial killer. Remember who coined the word, the title or the label serial killer? Programmed to Kill, y'all. Y'all got to go read that book. I have it. I'm going to find it right here and I'm going to share the link. And all you got to do, it's a free PDF. Okay. It's a public service announcement. Here's a link for a free PDF for the book Programmed to Kill by Dave McGowan, who also died suspiciously. And it's docjoy.net. It's safe. Go read it. And you will understand like these cults, these so-called serial killers, especially with Brian Koberger coming up. I'm just like, I don't know. It's just, it's made me change the way, or just, not change, but it just has opened up my way of thinking about things, because it's what I was indoctrinated to think all my life, because I never had to look anywhere. I didn't have to look beyond just what was being fed to me. It's okay to look beyond. Please do look. I love people who are in my chat, who visit my videos and my channel. I love those people to be diggers. Okay. I love the researchers. I love the people that don't just buy things verbatim as the media spills them to you. Thank you. I don't want anybody else here that's not looking for all answers all the time, Anyways, all right. I'll stop stopping it, allegedly.
Was programming designed to target pornography and sex addictions. 66. To manipulate victims into purchasing services and products from Connections, Hildebrandt diagnosed victims with pornography and/or sex addictions when the victims did not exhibit signs or symptoms of either. 67. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt also instructed so-called mental fitness trainers affiliated with and/or employed by Connections to induce victims into purchasing services and products from Connections by falsely diagnosing victims with non-existent mental health disorders. 68.
Same thing.
5 former patients disclosed to NBC News that Hildebrandt diagnosed them with pornography and/or sex addictions, even though none of them exhibited abnormal issues with
And they
either.
don't have it.
69.
No such thing.
The 5 men said that Hildebrandt assigned them into men's counseling groups that focused on porn, sex, and lust. 70. These victims later described how they were kicked out of their homes, separated from their families, and prevented from having an intimate relationship with their spouse for months or even years due to Hildebrandt's false diagnoses. 71. Stephanie Jones, a former patient of Hildebrandt, described similar tactics in an interview with ABC News, revealing that most women in Hildebrandt's women's group were separated from their husbands, or at least sleeping in separate rooms. 72. The enterprise has become a multi-million-dollar operation by fraudulently luring individuals to the enterprise through Connections and then charging them exorbitant amounts of money under the threat of pain, abuse, and destruction of one's family if the individuals do not fully invest in Connections, services, and products and the enterprise itself. 73. Connections and Hildebrandt charge the following fees for fraudulent services that financially benefit the enterprise. A. The Individual Leadership Training Program, which includes 6 individual sessions with a trainer, a workbook, podcasts, online trainings, and phone support. B. The Team Leadership Training Program, which includes 6 team sessions, group trainings, podcasts, online trainers, phone call support, and pre- and post-assessment surveys. C. The Company Leadership Training, which includes 6 team sessions, 6 manager sessions, 6 company-wide sessions, 18 group trainings, podcasts, access to online trainings, phone call support, and pre- and post-assessment surveys.
Same thing as Julie
Hildebrandt,
Rowe.
one-on-one training with Jodi, $181 per every 50-minute session with. E. Men, women's teams for $300 per month with a minimum 3-month commitment, which includes meeting with a group of men or women for 90 minutes each week with Hildebrandt moderating the meeting. F. The 6-week masterclasses, which includes.
Do y'all remember when Jessie, Jodi's niece, said that Jodi would perform these spiritual surgeries? Julie Rowe does the same thing. Interesting. I just thought about that.
Digital videos and a physical workbook. G. The 5-week parenting class, which includes digital videos and a physical workbook. H. Membership in the Empowering Joy community, which includes a weekly Zoom meeting and access to the Connections digital library, and membership in the Connections Insiders, which allows users to post video questions to Hildebrandt and or Franke. 74. Connections also sold the following fraudulent products online for shipment via U.S. mail, which both furthered the scheme of the enterprise and perpetuated Hildebrandt's methodology.
Absolutely.
A. Addiction Cycle and Shame versus Guilt Workbook and DVD. B. Anger, Fear, and Triggers Workbook and DVD. C. Boundaries Workbook and DVD. D. Connections Culture Business Empowerment
They're
Workbook.
such con
E.
artists,
Control
man.
versus Surrender Workbook and DVD. F. Dependency and Caretaking Workbook and DVD. G. Distraction and Fantasy Workbook. H. Drama Workbook and DVD. Vulnerability, Validation, and Risk. J. Connections Classroom Connecting Families Workbook. K. Faulty Core Beliefs and Denial Workbook and DVD. 1. Forgiveness and Humility Workbook and DVD. M. Healthy Sexuality and Connection Workbook and DVD. N. Love versus Lust Workbook and DVD. 0. Parenting Empowering Children to Become Responsible Workbook. P. Perceptions, Motives, and Agendas Workbook and DVD. 9. Safety and Recovery Workbook and DVD. F. Self-Love and Self-Care. S. Arming the Next Generation with Weapons of Truth Workbook, $13.54. T. Connections 202. Parenting, The Long-Lost Guide to RAICing Children Workbook. U. Connections Masterclass Workbook. 5th, The Connections Classroom Glossary. And W. You Are Not Enough book, which invites people to engage the principles of connection, what distortion is, and how to choose the foundational principles of honest, responsible, and humble in order to battle the lie of distortion. E. The expansive breadth of the enterprise and its significant effect on interstate commerce. 75. Defendants primarily executed the enterprise via the internet, social media, video conferencing, U.S. mail, and other interstate wires. 76. Defendants admit that their enterprise uses wires in interstate and foreign commerce.
You know they do.
Specifically, on the Meet the Founder page of the Connections website, Hildebrandt represented the following. Over 100 free podcasts have been produced in 2 years, and there have been over 1 billion plus downloads in 23 different countries simply by word of mouth.
Wow.
With the creation of connectionsclassroom.com, the facilitation of knowledge has never been easier for people to self-educate about these core truths. 77. As further evidence of defendants' impact on interstate and foreign commerce, as of January 19, 2023, the following hashtags have millions and some billions of views on TikTok alone.
Billion.
Hashtag connections, nearly 243 million views. Hashtag Jodi Hildebrandt, over 445 million views. Hashtag Ruby Franke, 2.2 billion views. And hashtag Moms of Truth, over 188 million views. The August 2023 arrest of Hildebrandt and Franke for torturing Franke's 2 small children exposed the enterprise as dangerous and dark brainwashing. 78. The true nature of the enterprise's fraudulent scheme was revealed in August 2023 when one of Franke's small children, whom Hildebrandt and Franke tortured at Hildebrandt's multi-million-dollar southern Utah residence, escaped and sought help from a neighbor. 79. On August 30th, 2023, Franke's 12-year-old son climbed out of a window in Hildebrandt's compound and ran to a neighbor's house. 81. Victim 1 also requested to be taken to a police station so he could be taken to jail. He made this request because Hildebrandt and Franke had abused and brainwashed him into believing that if he escaped, he would go to jail.
So, with that being said, do you remember how Melanie Gibb, because Lori's never said anything, Chad neither, about how they said that JJ said that he loved Satan. Do y'all remember that? And if you've read any of Ruby Franke's, the documented abuse, and how R was saying, I love Satan, or whatever. It was something like that. It wasn't that particular phrase, but it was something along those lines. And so I find that very interesting because I feel like it's the same concept. It's the same teaching. Up is down, down is up, light is dark, dark is light. It's bad. It's inverted for sure. And yeah, Krisha can make a point here. The church had to know and be deeply involved. They wouldn't allow women to be doing this, or women. I mean, or babies or kids. They wouldn't put them in harm's way. They wouldn't have Curtin and McConkie picking up phone calls whenever a bishop calls in to report abuse of a child, for sure. And they wouldn't have all these implemented systems that are going to fail the victim, but benefit said church, Anyways, wouldn't allow women to be doing this independent money making. No way. They were getting huge cuts. Yes. Yes. Totally. The LDS Church, Jean Marie says, the LDS Church was literally sending the members to Jodi and paying for her services, paying her to indoctrinate them further and lie and diagnose them with something that's non-existent. And I mean, that's insurance fraud, in my opinion. In my humble, I don't care if the church got defrauded. I don't think they did. But I do believe that there was a lot of frauding going on. I thought about that when I learned this, it's crazy. And then normal LCSW do not live in multi-million-dollar estates. Exactly, y'all. I'm telling you, with the way her house was built and everything, I'm just like, where are the tunnels? Where's the damn tunnels? I don't know. It just is weird. And it was very sparsely decorated, like Lori. Lori would sparsely decorate. All you'd see is damn temples on the wall. So bizarre, huh? These people are couillon. Anyways, the church is patriarchal. Women aren't in leadership roles really at the church, really at all. The church has to know. They do have to know. I believe they're part of it. That's just me, though. I hope not, but I really, they are. I mean, no, they are. See what I try to do? I try to convince myself that I'm wrong. And I mean, there's too much evidence pointing they know. And not only do they know, but they endorse it, in my opinion. It is said that all of the general authorities attended, this is allegedly, it is said that all the general authorities attended the 2017 whiteboard meeting. Okay. Tim Ballard. I mean, they had what, a whiteboard meeting every year or something? Except the 2019 just happened to show where it was going to funnel money launder funds that were meant to be for an anti-trafficking enterprise, so to speak. And then here we are, we got the traffickers trafficking. That's what they do. Why is this not showing? Okay, there. See, my mouse is weird. But it's true. This is what's going on, y'all. I am, yeah. Yeah, that's what's going on here. Okay, let me take this down. Yeah. I mean, look at this too. You got to look at this. Okay, so this is the Ballard verse, okay? As dubbed by fierce investigative journalist and and winner of a Pulitzer Award, Lynn K. Packer. And it connects to Jodi Hildebrandt, Ruby Franke, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, Tom Harrison, Ken Krogh, Tim Ballard, and of course, all being influenced by Tom Harrison's now infamous book, Visions of Glory. So, for what it's worth. We have, this goes to M. Russell Ballard. It goes to the Knights Templar in 2015, which, Eduardo Verrestegui, Paul Hutchinson, Tim Ballard, and Sean Reyes were all knighted in 2015. And then you have the Spear Fund over here to the left. You have Slave Stealers LLC. Brad Brower he was M. Russell Ballard's son-in-law, one of them. Or, yeah, the one that matters here. And he has Indulgent Foods, and that's where a lot of business transactions and listings in the 501c3 nonprofit, documentation, it would go to Indulgent Foods, which is interesting. And then you have Neil A. Maxwell up here, who's also another general authority that was friends with Tom Harrison. You have Eternal Core that was created by Tom Harrison and Ken Krogh after being introduced to Ken Krogh and Tom Harrison were introduced to one another via Rod Meldrum. Rod Meldrum has the Firm Foundation, the Firm Expo, which platformed Chad Daybell and Tim Ballard, and hell, even Troy Abels, okay, who promotes Tim Ballard. It's just like a plug, in my opinion. It's like, okay, you want to have a platform in Mormonism and you'll take up for me? Cool. He's being exploited, in my opinion, as well. Troy Abels, the last dispensation. I can't talk sometimes. And then you get this. Oh, nutty professor. Cuckoo. I accidentally grabbed that shot and I was like, well, that's perfect. That is perfect right there. So that's what's going on, y'all. What do y'all think? I want to know what y'all think. I always tell y'all what I think and how I think it goes. I need confirmation or rebuttal me or come at me with something. I want to hash this out. Talk about
82. It. The neighbor observed duct tape on victim one's wounded ankles and called 911. 83.
JJ Vallow was found with a voluminous amount of duct tape around his arms, elbows, hands, mouth, ankles. I really think that they had a plastic, because he was found with a white plastic bag on his head under the black one. And, the adrenal functions tend to work overtime when a child thinks that they're about to be killed, when they're about to die. And these people feed off of it. Do your research.
On arrival, law enforcement observed victim one's wounds and malnourishment to be severe, and he was transported to a local hospital for treatment. 84. Victim one was placed on medical hold due to his deep lacerations from being tied up with rope and from his malnourishment. 85. A treating physician at the St. George Regional Hospital said that if victim one was returned to Hildebrandt or Franke, it may result in death. 86. Franke's 10-year-old daughter was subsequently found at Hildebrandt's compound. 87. It was immediately clear that, like victim one, victim two was extremely malnourished. 88. Victim 2 initially refused medical attention, but after 4 hours finally consented. She was transported to a hospital where medical professionals found her to be extremely malnourished. 89. To facilitate this torture, Hildebrandt and Franke isolated the children from all individuals, including their own father and other siblings, for many months.
This happened with JJ Tiley. And yeah, so look, I just pulled this up, and this was that video I was telling you about, and I can't believe I just found it that quick. So trigger warning, may not want to even watch it, because it was something that I watched way after, I mean, like maybe 3 months ago, and I was like, holy crap. Oh, wait, this is from June 30, 2020. I don't know. Because the one, okay, maybe, let me go back to the other thing to make sure. Sorry.
90. The children had also been isolated from each other for over a month. 91. Law enforcement determined that Hildebrandt committed felony child abuse against victims 1 and 2. 92. Law enforcement also determined Franke to have direct knowledge of the children's intentional abuse, given a YouTube video posted 2 days prior to the arrests showing Franke in the residence where the abuse occurred. 93. When the police arrested Hildebrandt, she continued to deny any wrongdoing and remarkably told the arresting officer that victims 1 and 2 should never be allowed around any other kids. 94, in other words, per Hildebrandt, her torture of the victims 1 and 2 was justified because she was bringing them into truth. In Hildebrandt's multi-million-dollar compound, first responders found what was described to them as a panic room with a large Fort Knox vault door, in reality a torture chamber. 96. First responders believed that Franke's children could be trapped in the torture chamber. 97. On August 30th, 2023, police arrested Hildebrandt and Franke, and prosecutors charged them each with 2 counts of felony intentional aggravated child abuse, later increased to 6 counts of felony aggravated child abuse each. 98. By December 18th, 2023, Franke reached a plea agreement with the state in which she pled guilty to 4 counts of felony intentional aggravated child abuse. The state dismissed the other 2 charges in exchange for her truthful testimony against Hildebrandt. 99. On December 27th, 2023, Hildebrandt also pled guilty to 4 counts of felony intentional aggravated child abuse, with the state dismissing the other 2 charges, 100%. In their plea agreements, Hildebrandt and Franke admitted that their actions involved the physical torture of victim 1. In coercing victim 1 into the truth, the women confessed that they, A, isolated the child from all other people, electronics, and any entertainment. B, forced labor on this same child by...
Oh my God. Y'all, I'm sorry. This is like colliding. Isolated the child from all other people, electronics, Tylee's phone was taken away, and any entertainment. And so I really do think I found it this time, allegedly. So sorry. It needs to be introduced though. Crap. Oh, I turned it down.
It's important in this case, considering there's a white plastic bag over his head, or these scratch-like abrasions from the individual putting the plastic bag over his head. It could also be from JJ himself trying to get the bag off of his head. I wasn't there. I don't know. But these are the types of things that go through my head.
Joseph, there he is in his PJs, the last picture of JJ. The bag over the head, it got to be excruciating for a child. And to have someone that he trusts, like his mom, like Uncle Alex, being the one doing that.
Dr. Warren made a very important comment there.
This freaked me out, y'all.
Notice what he said about these scratch-like abrasions, like this, all the way down the neck, as if he were clawing at something. His important comment there is that there was hemorrhage indwelling. We automatically know that that is an antemortem or prior to death event. The deceased do not hemorrhage into soft tissues. If this was a post-mortem injury where maybe it was incurred while he was being buried, assuming that he was deceased when he was being buried, I still don't know that that's the case. The child would have had an awareness. And to add an extra layer of horror to this, if it couldn't get any worse, what if he came to in that buried state and he's panicking? His hands are bound already, his legs are bound, and he's reaching up with these duct duct tape bound wrist trying to free himself because it's a normal instinctual reaction to catch your breath. And then you wind up in this environment where you're absent any oxygen whatsoever. You're going to start panicking at that point in time, and eventually you're going to give into suffocation. That's what's really powerful here. And when he said that without saying it, because, obviously he said, I wasn't there. None of us were there, but there's some conclusions that we can draw scientifically, and it's quite horrible stuff. I don't recall a case like this, Vinny. And as you can tell, it impacts me. It impacts certainly Kay and Larry Woodcock.
Yeah, they stayed out today. Joseph Scott Morgan, thank you so much. Great to have you here. It's a tough day.
Thank you for having. This is an important day, Ben.
Absolutely.
It's an important day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but I've never thought it through. Like just now I was like, well, he had duct tape, so he couldn't scratch. But then I was like, well, I don't know, I didn't see it, right? I would not look. And then he was transported though in a bag from allegedly Lori's to Chad's. Anyways, I'll have to process that. It was when I heard that, but I didn't hear it till like months later, and I was just like, oh my God, I had never thought of that theory, and nor do I want to. It's horrible. But in the Hamblin documents from the Hamblin victims, the Hamblin daughters, I'm sorry, in their victim statements, they talk about some of the torture, including being buried alive. And I'm like, well, anyways.
By making him perform physical tasks for hours and days at a time, including wall sits, carrying boxes full of books up and down, stairs, and performing manual labor outside without shoes and in the intense summer heat. C forced victim 1 to stay outside day and night to labor without shoes in the direct sunlight and intense summer heat of southern Utah for extended periods and stand in the direct sunlight for several days, resulting in severe sunburns and damage to his skin. D denied victim 1 adequate water for several of the days he was required to remain in the summer heat and punished him when he secretly consumed water. And E denied victim 1 sufficient food, and when given food he was given very plain meals, while others in the house ate regular and more flavorful meals. 101.
I'm sure they got their turn.
Frankie admitted to kicking victim 1 while she wore boots, holding victim 1's head underwater, and cutting off oxygen by placing her hands over his nose and mouth. This horrendous torture is a straightforward implementation of the Enterprise's accepted methodology imposed on hundreds, if not thousands of victims. 102. Upon information and belief after multiple escape attempts, victim 1 finally succeeded. 103. Before victim 1 escaped, Hildebrandt and Frankie admitted to sadistic, intense torture, including A. Regularly binding victim 1's hands and feet. The child was tied to Frankie and to weights. Many times the binding included using 2 sets of handcuffs, one on the child's wrists and one on his ankles. B. At times the child was forced to lie on his stomach. Ropes were used to tie the 2 sets of handcuffs together so that his arms and lower legs were lifted off the ground. C. The bindings resulted in injuries to victim 1's wrists and ankles, where the handcuffs cut through the skin and damaged the muscle tissue. Then the wounds were covered with duct tape. 104. Hildebrandt and Frankie admitted that the actions described above caused severe emotional harm to victim 1 because they began in May and escalated throughout the summer months. Additionally, Hildebrandt and Frankie regularly sought to indoctrinate and convince him that he was evil and possessed, and that he needed to willingly be obedient to avoid punishments. And while Hildebrandt and Frankie told that these punishments were necessary for him to repent, he also needed to go to jail for his sins.
Oh my God, this sounds so familiar. I remember a comment. It was one of the days of the court hearings for these 2 broads. And I don't remember if it was Ruby and Jodi or if it was Ruby and Jodi and different things. Like somebody said something different. I think Jodi said something like, don't put him around other kids. And I'm like, why? Because you trained him. And so he's going to, you know what I mean? Like that, this is how this works. I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying from the other cases that I've researched, this is what they do. This is how they train. This is how they infiltrate. Makes me wonder about Lori and Alex. It makes me wonder about so many freaking things. But the fact that another comment was something along the lines of, that R had been addicted to corn since he was like 3 or something. And I'm like, or something about his iPad. It's, you know what I'm saying? I don't remember exactly what it was now, but it was something along those lines. And it's like, so if JJ is saying, I love Satan, and then R is saying, you know, screw it. I just thought of it like, oh, okay, well, he's just saying, I'd rather Satan than you, mom. You know what I'm saying? Like just bucking her, which could be both. It could just be him bucking her. It could involve my theory here. But they are projecting these things onto these children either way. Convince him he was evil and possessed. To indoctrinate, and he thought he was. Jesse was also these things were inflicted on Jesse as well. If you listen to her to their interview on Mormon Stories podcast and others, it's crazy. I'd love to meet her and Adam Paul Steed.
He was also told that everything that was done to him were acts of love. 105 Hildebrandt's and Frankie's torture of victim on represents Hildebrandt's methodology espoused by the Enterprise implemented to its most fundamental degree. 106 Hildebrandt and Frankie admitted to similar offenses against victim 2. 107 Frankie's journal entries reveal that this horrendous criminal behavior was not separated from Hildebrandt's teachings and the Enterprise, but in reality, Hildebrandt's methodology implemented to the highest degree possible. A. If wants to emulate the Savior, he needs to be 100% obedient with exactness. No wavering, no hiding. C. The devil doesn't like when you get your subject to agree to truth. D. I let know she has hardened her heart and will do one more day of fasting to invite her to be humble. Flips out and begins.
Y'all, that plays right into Lori's thinking. We heard it in Colby's phone interview with her. And I mean, she just thinks that all opposition, and that's prevalent in all these freaking cases, is that, you know, when you're doing good, when you're doing the Lord's work, they think they're doing the good Lord's work, but they're not. But so they say that Satan and his demons, you know, are really after you. Lori said that Satan's always after her, and Satan hates her since she was a little girl. I'm telling you.
Ranting.
They're crazy.
Dishonest chance. D. I let know she has hardened her heart and will do one more day of fasting to invite her to be humble. Flips out and begins ranting. Dishonest chance. My mom starves me and calls it fasting. E. Oppositional force is required for growth, development, maturity. Have never experienced oppositional force. F. Boundaries will show you how much possession a soul has. The more boundaries, the more the soul will reveal itself. G. Back to sending evil away. Articulating truth drives evil away. This is a power intervention for the possessed, even if you can start by agreeing to something truthful. H. Following up on articulating a desire for evil with a demonstration of obedience is powerful. Demonstrating a willingness to follow truth is a pattern the Savior used in his interactions. I. Need natural outcomes.
They are such
J.
manipulators.
One might ask, as I myself have, what if we had taken this slower? Would the children have been on board if we hadn't boundaried them so quickly and clearly? They needed things to get hard fast.
What the frick is boundaried? I mean, I know we heard about it earlier, but what is their definition of boundaried? Sounds like an act or something.
J. One might ask, as I myself have, what if we had taken this slower? Would the children have been on board if we hadn't boundaried them so quickly and clearly? They needed things to get hard fast. Intense, shocking change, immediate discomfort. They could have confessed in truth, taking personal responsibility for the discomfort they were causing. K. Would choose to be shot and die rather than to be humble and do what she is told.
Yeah. E. Would choose to be shot and die rather than to be humble and do what she is told. There is no pain point where she will turn. There's no pain point where she will turn.
Told. There is no pain point where she will turn. L. Mom 2. You would rather be uncomfortable.
L. Mom. Anyways, L. And this is Mom 2, Victim 1. You would rather be uncomfortable than to be obedient. This isn't really about being uncomfortable. This is about adamantly refusing obedience. You would rather be uncomfortable than be obedient.
M. Ruby 2. You cannot manipulate your way out of pain. The only way out of pain is to humble yourself.
What the hell, man?
N, for the human who is not humble, you have to get to your breaking point. O.
So I have it where it won't read parentheses, because filing suck. For the human who is not humble today, this constitutes the vast majority, right? Because they're the illuminated ones, if you know. You have to get to your breaking point. So that's what they're doing. They're just provoking and egging these kids on. And then people like Chad, they look at kids as abusers. They look at themselves as victims. Jodi is a victim. So is Ruby. So is Chad. So is Lori. These people are so backwards. I wish reality would slap them in the damn face every day for the rest of their lives.
Never would have disclosed his sins had he not had a hope that confessing would bring a sense of relief. His motive, because he is not humble, was to feel better.
Did y'all know that? Okay, I just remember that just brought this up. In the Hamblin case, I just learned that the certain role, I guess the Peter Familius, which is usually the man of the family, I guess, like David Hamblin would have been a Peter Familius allegedly, and that they had to do confessions and confess. And so the fact that Jodi Hildebrandt stated that their aunt would do that too, and they're thinking like, oh my God, what did I do? And so you just kind of make something up or whatever. I stole so-and-so's pack of gum or something innocent, because these kids aren't even, they're just, oh my God, 12, 14, 16, 13, 10, 6, they're kids. They're freaking kids. I wonder if that's the same confessions. Anyways.
P. The world we live in today does not support children being uncomfortable. O. Never would have disclosed his sins had he not had a hope that confessing would bring a sense of relief. His motive, because he is not humble, was to feel better. P. The world we live in today.
Okay, big one. Never would have disclosed his sins had he not had a hope that confessing would bring a sense of relief. Isn't that what the point is? Confessions, to bring them before God and to, repent. Like as a Catholic, we would be assigned like say 10 Hail Marys or something. And you couldn't take communion if, you hadn't been to confession, yada, yada. And so, you're supposed to feel relieved. Right? That's the whole point. His motive, because he is not humble. So not anything else, but just humble. One of the principles, not any of the other weird inverted things. So it's because he wanted to feel better. And because he's not humble, he does not feel better.
P. The world we live in today does not support children being uncomfortable. And so children are comforted, entertained, distracted from the need to confess and change. Stripping down a child.
Distracted from the need to confess and change.
Child's world to the basics of beans and rice and hard work would be considered abuse. Q.
Mm-hmm.
It has been 3 months of consistent boundaries and putting up with his terrorizing to get confessions out. Who would do this in a real world? I don't know of anyone who would feed their kid in America beans, lentil, rice, and chicken for 3 months straight and refuse all distractions. And this is why Americans are so full of sin and are ready for destruction. Body is full of evil, puffy infection, and he won't participate in the responsibility of flushing it out. 108. From May 22nd, 2023 through August 30th, 2023, the time in which Hildebrandt and Franke admitted to this secret torture and abuse of children at Hildebrandt's mansion. They broadcast at least 75 interstate wire communications in the form of podcasts and social media posts from Hildebrandt's compound. 109. The podcasts that Hildebrandt and Franke communicated to the public from May 2023 through August 2023 constitute nearly 10% of the Connections podcasts made available to the public. 110. In these interstate wire communications, Hildebrandt and Franke represent that by following them, an individual will come into truth by learning to be honest, humble, and responsible. 111. Hildebrandt and Franke fraudulently advertise Connection services by, among other things, omitting that Hildebrandt's methodology requires the torture and physical abuse of children to bring children into truth, and that the torture of 2 children was occurring in the room next door in Hildebrandt's southern Utah residence, while Hildebrandt and Franke instructed people in their podcast to be honest and humble. G. The longevity of the enterprise and the number of its victims demonstrate that defendants knew their actions were unlawful, vile, and dangerous. 112. After Hildebrandt and Franke's arrests, many individuals have publicly explained how the enterprise victimized them as well. These reports are strikingly similar to the torture Hildebrandt and Franke inflicted upon victims 1 and 2, and similarly, Savage's abusive plaintiff and their minor daughter. 113. The enterprise has been continuously defrauding and abusing individuals for at least 15 years. 114. Known victims of the enterprise include plaintiff Jodi Hildebrandt, Adam Steed, David Bateman, and Spencer Tibbetts. I, Jodi Hildebrandt. 115. Upon information and belief, shortly after Hildebrandt's arrest, Jodi Hildebrandt described to the media the extreme abuse and torture they endured as a minor child 15 years ago at the hands of Hildebrandt, which is strikingly similar in nature to the torture of victims 1 and 2. 116. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt abused and tortured Jodi to bring them into truth. 117. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt's abuse and torture of Jodi included restraining them with duct tape, blindfolding them, isolating them for up to 12 hours per day, forcing them to sleep outside in the snow, physically pushing them, telling Jodi that it was dangerous for them to speak with other people, telling Jodi that Hildebrandt would recruit agents who would report back if Jodi had broken any of Hildebrandt's rules. Hildebrandt falsely accusing Jodi.
Holy crap. Another thing. That right there, which I mean, yeah, but it's perfect time to talk about it. Same thing with that's been alleged against Hamblin, saying that the daughters are saying that their father and mother would basically show their children off to solicit the training that had been done on the Hamblin kids. Okay, so that is what that is. 117. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt's abuse and torture of Jodi included restraining them with duct tape, blindfolding them, isolating them for up to 12 hours per day. That's deprivation, right? Forcing them to sleep outside in the snow, physically pushing them, telling Jodi that it was dangerous for them to speak with other people, telling Jodi that Hildebrandt would recruit agents who would report back if Jodi had broken any of Hildebrandt's rules. Hildebrandt falsely accusing Jodi of being addicted to sex, pornography, and masturbation. Hildebrandt not giving Jodi privacy, including in the bathroom, because Hildebrandt falsely alleged that Jodi would masturbate, etc. Okay, so that wasn't quite it, but there is in Jodi's interview where they talk about, like Ruby, oh my God, Jodi would say not to say anything, and they would go to different different people's houses or different places and meet with clients and stuff. Y'all remember that? Maybe it'll come up.
Jodi of being addicted to sex, pornography, and masturbation. Upon information and belief on one occasion, after an instance in which Jodi attempted to escape, Hildebrandt pulled Jodi out of bed by the hair, blindfolded them, tied their wrists and legs, and started driving. After arriving at an unknown location, Hildebrandt began screaming at Jodi and accusing them of manipulating other people to think that something was wrong. 119. Upon information and belief after this incident, Hildebrandt drove her vehicle into a mountain with Jodi on the floor of the vehicle and coerced Jodi to run up and down the mountain for 6 hours. 120. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt placed individuals at the bottom of the mountain to surveil Jodi to ensure that they did not escape. 121. Upon information and belief, typically during the day, Hildebrandt would take Jodi to work with her and require Jodi to stay isolated in a small closet the entire day. 122. Upon information and belief, on one such occasion, Jodi had an opportunity to escape. Jodi did so and sought protection for a time at a homeless shelter. 123. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt did not report Jodi as a missing child or make any other attempt to locate her minor family member. 124. Jodi's experience is highly similar to victims 1 and 2. 2. Adam Steed, 125. Upon information and belief, Adam Steed is a victim of the enterprise. 126. Hildebrandt was professionally disciplined in 2012 for abuse she inflicted on Steed, her former patient. Professional licensing for unlawfully disclosing information about a patient. 102 as John Doe in Doppel documents. 129. Upon information and belief, Steed identified himself as the individual who reported Hildebrandt's professional misconduct. 130. Upon information and belief, NBC News confirmed Steed's disclosure by reviewing a Doppel complaint naming Steed, reviewing therapy notes from Steed's sessions with Hildebrandt, and reviewing other documents relevant to the professional misconduct. 131. Upon information and belief, Steed and his now ex-wife saw Hildebrandt for counseling services through Connections for 9 months in 2008. 132. Steed's experience is yet another example of the enterprise's fraudulent and unlawful scheme involving the provision of fraudulent services through Connections. Steed said, "We came there for marriage counseling, and she pulled us into her porn marathon." 133. Upon information and belief, instead of providing legitimate counseling services, Hildebrandt immediately diagnosed Steed with a sex and pornography addiction, even after Steed stated he did not have issues with either. 134. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt also insisted that the Steeds needed to triple down on the amount of therapy sessions they were purchasing through Connections for the financial gain of the enterprise. 135. Upon information and belief, Steed indicated Hildebrandt's charges were as high as $2,000 a month. 136.
That is crazy.
Upon information and belief, after Steed refused, Hildebrandt provided false accounts of Steed's confidential counseling information without his permission to leaders in his church, to honor code officials at the university he was attending, and to 2 other therapists. 137. Hildebrandt's actions toward Steed were typical of the enterprise's strategy to keep individuals within the enterprise. Hildebrandt and other members of the enterprise would coordinate with a victim's spouse to disseminate false allegations and information about a victim's mental health diagnoses to embarrass, harass, and subsequently coerce victims to stay within the enterprise for fear of facing additional public shaming. 138. As described by Steed, when I chose to leave this cult-like group, Jodi tried to punish me, and she worked through honor code office and legal measures to try to hurt me.
Dirty.
And I have the emails between my ex-wife and planning out all this stuff, talking about what the real issues in our marriage were, and them evolving that into something drastically different with allegations that would totally destroy a life. I had to come forward because when I heard they were doing the same thing to those little kids that they did to me to hide their crimes, it was totally predictable. 139. Upon information and belief, when Steed refused to continue paying Hildebrandt exorbitant services, fees through Connections for the benefit of the enterprise and to treat non-existent mental health issues. Hildebrandt conspired with Steed's now ex-wife to falsely accuse him of sexually abusing their small child. 140. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt instructed Steed's ex-wife to send an email with a list of demands of what Steed had to do to avoid divorce, which included remaining in the enterprise, paying the enterprise thousands of dollars per month for fraudulent, unnecessary services, and a requirement that Steed could not see other therapists. 141. Upon information and belief, as a result of Hildebrandt's false claims to these organizations and his ex-wife, Steed lost church privileges, was temporarily suspended from his university, and suffered a divorce. 142. Steed stated, "My family got destroyed. My life got destroyed." 143. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt also attempted to restrict Steed's access to his children. 144. Steed reported that once Hildebrandt began meeting with his now ex-wife, Hildebrandt made her falsely believe that she needed to protect the children from him. 145. In her stipulation with Doppel, Hildebrandt admitted that her disclosure of information was detrimental to and not in best interests. 146. Hildebrandt also admitted that her conduct was unprofessional as defined by Utah law and violated her ethical responsibilities. 147. Among other professional sanctions, Hildebrandt stipulated to having her license placed on probation for 18 months for her ethical violations relating to Steed to Act 2. Dave Bateman, 148. Upon information and belief, Dave Bateman is another victim of the enterprise.
Okay, I have to go potty real quick. I'll be right back.
149. Upon information and belief, in 2019, Bateman sued Hildebrandt in excess of $300,000 in damages. See Second Amended Complaint and Jury Demand, Bateman v. Hildebrandt. 150. Upon information and belief, Bateman was CEO and majority shareholder of a large software company in Utah. ID at 8:151. Upon information and belief, Bateman and his now ex-wife sought marriage counseling through Hildebrandt. ID at 10:11-152. Upon information and belief, unsurprisingly, after Bateman realized that Hildebrandt was not assisting the marriage, he ended counseling with Hildebrandt, and divorce proceedings followed shortly thereafter. ID at 17:19-153. As with what happened with Steed and plaintiff, Hildebrandt attempted to destroy Bateman's life because he would not accept the enterprise and Hildebrandt's methodology. 154. Upon information and belief, the conspiracies between Hildebrandt and Bateman's ex-wife include Hildebrandt assisting Bateman's ex-wife to fabricate false and defamatory claims against Bateman in divorce proceedings. Hildebrandt instructing the ex-wife to falsely allege to the court that Bateman was abusive to their children in order to gain advantage in custody proceedings. Hildebrandt instructing the ex-wife to file a false report of child abuse with law enforcement, and Hildebrandt herself falsely reporting Bateman to authorities for child abuse. ID at 21:23-155. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt's behavior towards Bateman was criminal under Utah Code sections 76.9-404, 76.8-506, and 76.4-201. 156. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt also met with Bateman's business partners to strategize how to take control of Bateman's company. See Bateman complaint at 24. 157. Upon information and belief in these meetings, Hildebrandt unlawfully disclosed confidential information regarding Bateman, tracking Hildebrandt's pattern of previous ethical violations, including those with Steed. CID 158. Upon information and belief, Hildebrandt's unlawful disclosures caused significant legal issues for Bateman in addition to his divorce. ID at 26. 159. As occurred with plaintiff and nearly every father who has spoken publicly about his experience with Hildebrandt, Hildebrandt worked to cut off Bateman from his children. ID at 29. 160. Upon information and belief, at one point, due to Hildebrandt's unlawful actions, Bateman was completely cut off from his children for 3 weeks. ID IV Spencer Tibbetts, 161. Upon information and belief, Spencer Tibbetts is another victim of the enterprise. 162. Upon information and belief, Tibbetts spoke with the media last year. His now divorced parents sought counseling from Hildebrandt in 2018 when Tibbetts was a minor. 163. Upon information and belief, even though Tibbetts had never viewed pornography and at the time didn't know what it was, Hildebrandt placed him in an adult men's counseling group that delved into pornography, sex addiction, and lust. 164. Upon information and belief, Tibbetts reported that in one therapy call mandated by Hildebrandt, a group member described incest fantasies to him. 165. Forcing a minor child to participate in sexually explicit conversations constitutes aggravated child abuse. See Utah Code 76.5-109, 76.5-109. V. Additional victims. 166. The Enterprise's social media pages contain hundreds of comments have accumulated from people saying the program caused harm to the couples who sought their counseling services. 167. On the Connections website, Hildebrandt stated that she hawk counseled thousands of individuals and families of all ages and situations with my unique style. The Enterprise has damaged hundreds of individuals and families. 168. Hildebrandt's methodology is destructive to families and marriages indeed. Such destruction is a primary objective of the Enterprise. 169. By fabricating false diagnoses and manipulating victims into believing they need additional services that can only be provided by Hildebrandt. Hildebrandt and members of the Enterprise furthered the scheme by enticing victims into spending exorbitant amounts of money on Hildebrandt's and the Enterprise's services. 170. As described above, Connections represents that purchasing its products and services and following Hildebrandt's methodology will bring peace in individuals' lives and joy in their relationships and families. 171.
I mean, that's a good point, Chris. Actually, I was thinking, what went through my mind as to why they pled guilty was just to protect the Enterprise too. You know, like they're not supposed to be ratting. I mean, they cannot. They will be punished. They will be, if they're in the LDS Church, as Aiden at least. But I mean, that's a double doozy, you know. Now, I'm at a crossroads, unfortunately, and I hate even using that damn word. But we're almost 3 hours in, and we are 34 minutes, 57 seconds into the document. And it's a total of 1 hour and 50 minutes and 8 seconds. So I'm hungry, and you know, that would be a Mondo freaking live stream, okay? So I don't know what y'all want to do. If y'all want to, now what I can do, what I've done with Tim Ballard victim statements that they've made in the lawsuits against him, I, you know, use my Speechify app and I just uploaded them like that. You know, I can use Gwyneth Paltrow's voice. I can use anybody's voice. We can do Snoop Dogg. I'm just kidding. Makes you wonder who owns Speechify, you know? But anyways, I can, you know, screen record it, or, you know what I'm saying? Put it playing back here like that. And then put it, you know, to where you don't have to hear any commentary. You just watch it like that. The whole document being read. Or we can do another one tomorrow about the same time, I guess, and just chomp more into it. I don't know. It's interesting because, like, even my video editing app, it's a lot of like, oh my God, Diddy, Oprah, you know, for the clips and stuff that we can use. It's very interesting. I'm like, makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Tim Ballard voice, I would love to. Would love to. I don't know, because it makes you read a certain thing, and I'm like, well, I wonder if I can use like my Uncle Charles's voice and then do like, or you know, all their voices, and then do the text messages where it's in their own voice, you know, so kind of. I don't know. Continue another day. I was thinking the same thing too. Now let me see. Hey, Moonlight View, and hey everybody who's come in and haven't been able to say hi to. Thank you, and thank you, mods. You guys are stellar. So what I'm gonna do is see. We're on page 36 now, and I'm trying to find the next heading. I guess. Oh my gosh. Going. You know, like the next cheese and rice. Oh my God, my bonus son is talking so loud. Okay, I don't know. We'll just make it to, oh crap. Let me just push play. Okay, I do that to get back to where I was. Okay, let's say we'll go to page 40, okay? Or I'll find somewhere around that page number. See, this is 36 right here where my mouse is. And it's 112 pages, so it's super long. Okay, let me go tell him to hush. All right.
Saving victims' lives. The enterprise causes divorce and destruction in the vast majority of families who fall victim to it as a direct result of Hildebrandt's actions to falsely diagnose victims, with fabricated conditions to entice them to purchase services and products from connections. Regarding Hildebrandt's teachings, a former client explained, the narrative was very much like, if your husband is not perfect, it is your job to leave him, and he is undeserving, and if he was to be living honest, responsible, humble, you know, these values, then he would be deserving. The former client explained that at the time this former client was meeting with Hildebrandt, she told a friend that if I had been married entering group, I would be exiting the group as divorced, and that Hildebrandt definitely wasn't an advocate for marriage or men. 173. Upon information and belief, Stephanie Jones, another former client of Hildebrandt, reported that most women receiving services from Hildebrandt were separated from their husbands or were at least sleeping in separate rooms. 174. Unsurprisingly, the vast majority of Hildebrandt's former clients who have shared their experiences publicly are now divorced. This includes Kevin Franke, Spencer Tibbetts' parents, Adam Steed, Stephanie Jones, Dave Bateman, and plaintiff. 175. Similarly, as explained above, hundreds of individuals commented on Connection's social media pages disclosing Hildebrandt's destruction of their families using the enterprise's fraudulent tactics. 176. Members of the enterprise disclosed
We'll do it
numerous
part three.
times that they knew of the fraudulent and harmful nature of the services and products sold by Connections and the enterprise's scheme. 177. Hildebrandt posted a video in which she admits that she read reviews for her services. 178.
Yeah, she
In
did.
the video, Hildebrandt angrily stated that the majority of individuals gave her the lowest reviews, and only 5 individuals left 5-star reviews.
Why?
179. In the video, Hildebrandt angrily related how individuals are mad with her services and then leave a 1-star review. 180. Hildebrandt mandated that her customers and followers leave 5-star reviews. 181.
That was
A
horrible.
similar response is seen on the Connections podcast, where on Spotify, the podcasts have a 1.3 out of 5 rating, and on Apple Podcasts, they have a 2.5 out of 5 rating. 182. The Apple Podcast platform allows comments, which explain in detail the harmful nature of the enterprise. 183. In a shocking video in which Hildebrandt compares herself and Frankie to Rosa Parks, Hildebrandt and Frankie explain that they get attacked every day for the falsehoods they perpetrate. The enterprise is fraudulent.
You
In
go,
summary,
robot.
the enterprise is fraudulent in multiple ways. After using misleading vernacular that Hildebrandt and Connections offer counseling and life coaching products and services, and even that they can resolve any negative issue, members of the enterprise then falsely diagnose victims with pathologies to further manipulate them and entice victims to spend money on unnecessary services and products, brainwash victims.
And then it also, I guess, would legitimize or make a reality to the women who are buying into this crap, who their husbands, let's say they don't have nefarious motives, when they go into this Jodi Hildebrandt's program. And then Jodi immediately goes to her MO, which is to label victim, okay, isolate and get Ruby to herself, right, and these other people. And then so it's like, because of her stature, because of her license and everything, because of her, all the people who give her credibility, like Ken Krogh, Tom Harrison, and all. And so, I mean, this becomes really real for these, I would say, women who aren't nefarious, okay, who don't go with nefarious motives. And so, because Jodi is labeling their husband as being a porn addict and so on and so forth, then it definitely would create doubt in that. Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe just like talking it through and walking it through, it does, that's crazy. Anyway.
Encourage and mandate that victims engage in severe psychological and physical abuse, including physical torture, encourage members and victims to cut fathers off from their children, actively destroy marriages and families, and demand that victims submit to Hildebrandt's will. 185. Upon information and belief, members of the enterprise know of the fraudulent nature of their scheme because Hildebrandt has been open with members about her torture and physical abuse of minors and victimization of clients and other individuals for at least 15 years. 186. In multiple videos disseminated over interstate wires, members of the enterprise make statements demonstrating that the enterprise was aware that its scheme and the services and products sold by Connections were fraudulent. Jay Savage implements Hildebrandt's methodology to damage plaintiff. 187. In an interview, Steed described individuals who implement Hildebrandt's methodology. Clients that are close to her, that are probably not very good people in the first place, but enhances their abilities under her guidance to do incredibly criminal things.
That's that whole credibility thing.
188.
Yes, ma'am.
This accurately describes Savage and her implementation of Hildebrandt's methodology to victimize and abuse plaintiff and his daughter for the past decade.
Okay, so we'll stop here. It's page 39, but it's going into the abuse he's alleging of his daughter and him because of his wife, whatever Savage, and and Jodi and the enterprise, right? Of course, there's a damn enterprise. It's like he's smarter by wording things this way than labeling it as a cult. It's counterproductive, in my opinion, to call it a cult. It grabs everybody's damn attention. Everybody's like, and it's kind of like that shock doctrine. Yeah. I love the way he and his attorneys have laid this thing out. It's not beautiful, but it's beautifully laid out. I like the way he words things, at first I was like, Enterprise, what the hell? But okay, so we'll stop there, and then tomorrow at 7:30 we'll pick up at the same time. Wait, I don't know. Yeah, Monday. I think. Oh, when does Megan go live? I don't want to over schedule her. I'll try and maneuver around that if it's tomorrow. It might be Tuesday, but I think I don't know. But anyways, got to do some maneuvering, but we'll schedule again and we'll pick up where we left off. And I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, KJ and Mr. Wayne, again for your generous donations and just for being here and believing in me and doing this with me. And to all of you and my mods, you guys are wonderful. I hope your son doesn't get too spoiled. Okay. Anyways, but I appreciate you guys being here and thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow, right? Justice for Tylee, Trolls, Tammy, JJ, and Joe. Love always wins, and you guys are proof. Bye. Bye, Angela. Bye, y'all. Oh, did I hit it? No, bye.